Hello, kids. It is the Matt Murphy Radio Show underway for another day. Conveniently, I am Matt Murphy, and until 7 o'clock, I'll hold the court on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I thank you for being around with us. It's episode 736. Man, oh, man. We'll be at 1,000 before you know it. It is also Locks for Trump Day 328. I've been growing these luscious locks out for that long, and it'll get cut sooner rather than later. Super Talk 99.7 WTN can be found on a variety of platforms. You can check us out on the my goodness, what's going on around here?
What is it, Brother Murphy?
I'll be all right. Just a lot of loudness. Happening. I'll be okay. There's the voice of Ken Weaver making sure that all the breaking news that is fit to air is broadcast twice an hour and when it breaks. Hello, Ken Weaver.
How about you?
What's happening?
Just writing up stuff, man. Looks like a bunch of students going to organize a Metro Schools walkout unless the school district does something about violence.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay, well, what do they want us to do, Ken?
Hell, they just want us to do something.
Okay, well, we'll talk about that with our guest in the 3 o'clock hour. That would be Courtney Johnston, who is a Metro counselor, and she might have some ideas about what we can and cannot do as a metropolitan region with regard to school violence. Obviously, that is in reflection of the sad situation that happened over at Antioch High School, a situation that, upon reflection, potentially could have been avoided had some of the red flags been noticed by officials in place to notice said red flags. Once again, we'll talk with Courtney Johnston about that in just a couple of minutes. Once we get done with the opening monologue, we'll invite Courtney in. She's already in studio with us. I'm excited to talk to her about that. I'm excited to alert her that Freddie says that LPRs are happening. That's what he told me. At least that's what I remember Freddie told me. Right after they deal with FUSIS, they'll deal with LPRs. And they'll deal with that right after, unicorns fly over the city of Nashville and rainbows come out of my butt. But one way or the other, we're going to get to it. Don't you worry. It's a First Amendment Freestyle Friday on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. That means we communicate with you as vociferously as normal. But I'll tell you, I lean on you on these Fridays. We'll lighten it up at some point over the course of the day. And we'll take your telephone calls and your super text all afternoon long at 615-737-9986. 615-737-9986. If you don't want to call, then you may text. If you don't want to text, you can email me. If you don't want to email me, I'm on X. I'm on a variety of social media platforms, and you can find us there. Speaking of that, you can download our app and take us wherever you go. These are a part of the pleasantries. I'll get them out of the way. Take us wherever you go and whenever you go. Throughout the course of your day, take us with you just by downloading Supertalk 99.7 WTN on your smartphone technology. You can also find us on the television on Supertalk TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, up and running on a daily basis. And there's always I almost said a cute. I don't want to insult Chris Webber. I almost said a cute title. I don't think they're cute. They're pithy. They're snappy, clever and snappy titles.
Yeah.
Of the Matt Murphy Show on a daily basis.
At least when I can come up with one.
I've noticed.
Yeah.
I've never commented publicly, but I've noticed.
Oh.
And I thank you.
Well, thank you.
You excited about the room renovation?
Oh, very.
Yeah, me too. That'd be big time.
Laughing at Ken?
Well, yeah, what are you laughing at, Weaver?
I love Chris, man. Chris. I'm very excited about that.
Well, I mean, I heard I have it on good authority that there is a secret, because I was talking about your idea, Chris Webber.
Okay.
To take these banners, whatever, What do we call them? Curtains?
Well,
banners?
I think they're curtains. That's what they look.
And,
tablecloths.
And utilize them in different ways if they're not going to be utilized in the room.
Yeah.
Perhaps as a backdrop for you or a backdrop for Ken Weaver in News Closet B.
Just seemed like a good idea to keep from throwing them in the closet.
Right. Just
the real closet.
Wadding them up and
put them in the news closet.
But it is my understanding that there is an action plan in place for News Closet B.
Oh, really?
Look, I wouldn't tell you this if I did not hear it with my own ears.
All right.
That's what I've been told.
You're going to get that window, Ken.
Man, that would be great.
I don't know that we should I don't know that we should get our hopes up on the window.
I'd open it and yell at people.
As a matter of fact, I also have an inside track to that. And it's my understanding that not only is Ken not getting a window,
rats,
that because of all of the complaining on Nashville's morning news about the blinds not working, that this window is probably not going to be utilized anymore. It's going to be covered.
Covered up.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It's my understanding.
So that will essentially make yours a closet as well.
You'll be the only window in the house.
Yeah.
At this stage.
What if we can get I want to put a request in for while we're doing renovations. Can we clean this window?
Let's not get too crazy.
It's been a while, I think.
We're still in radio, right?
Yeah.
Right?
It's as if they smoked in there.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
And they probably did back in the
There's
day.
been something smoking in here.
The last time my room has been renovated, there might have been smoking in this building. At that
Those
point.
were the days.
Do you remember those days, Ken?
Oh, I do, man.
So good, man. When I was working country music, I would at 101.7.
Yes, sir.
Your better country FM. I always loved that slogan.
Yeah.
You're better. We're not the best country, but we're better than the last guys that came around.
Right.
You're better country FM. Oh, man, 1988, 1989, 15, 16 years old, already smoking in my youth. I wouldn't recommend it, kids. But boy, oh boy, you had the ashtrays in there.
Yes.
And you would 4 breaks an hour, Ken Weaver, but you'd get done with that break, that 30-second lead up to Alan Jackson or Alabama. Here's Alabama. Roll on, 18-wheeler on
Yes, sir.
WTHO. And just you fire one of those things up, boy. You just accomplished something.
I'd smoke right there at the microphone.
Just leave it burning while you're talking.
I mean, dude, I'd go through a pack of Winston's a shift.
Oh, absolutely.
Wow.
I'm gonna pay for that one of these days.
Yeah, one of these days. Did you? You were spinning 45s too, right, Ken?
Oh yes.
Oh yeah, we were.
Had the cue burn and everything.
I was lucky. I feel it lucky for those who have been in the radio business. I feel blessed that I caught the tail end of 45s and actually spinning records. That was so good.
I hate that I didn't, because I was doing it as a kid. But
Yeah.
Were you doing? Did you do cart machines or CDs?
I never did the cart machines, but I did that. We did have a reel to reel.
Uh-huh.
That was bizarre. I'd never seen one of those before.
Oh,
We
yeah.
learned how to use that.
Had a little tone on it that would kick off the other reel to reel at the end of a song.
Well, y'all were fancy. We got that at some point, but on the AM side of things. So it was a FM AM combo. 3,000 watt FM country music station. The 1,000 was a full service local station. WTWA, your favorite easy listening hits from the 40s to the 80s.
Yeah.
Wow. The heart
The
of
40s.
Thompson. From the we played Count Basie, baby. What are you talking about? We played Cab Calloway, Count Basie.
Awesome.
We sling those heads. Then Frank Sinatra, Doris Day, Que Sera Sera.
And then Casey and the Sunshine Band.
And then Casey and the Sunshine, all the way up to Simon and Garfunkel, the softer stuff.
What?
On the Simon and Garfunkel. Yeah, we played the soft. We didn't get into the raucous.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. That's a little risque for Thompson, GA.
Yeah.
Oh, but yeah, we had those reel-to-reel machines, and you had to manually start them and stop them from the control area. They had little start stops. For all the reel-to-reels. You had the 100s, the 200s, the 300s, and the 400s. That stood for the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s and 80s were a combo deal.
Dude, I worked at a radio station where we had to take a little reel-to-reel back to the transmitter and hook it right into the transmitter to record Paul Harvey. And you couldn't hear it. I had to just watch the needles move.
Paul Harvey, news and comment.
What do you think there, Weaver? Do you think he's already started? Well, the needles are moving.
Did we miss it?
While we're just walking down memory lane, Ken, did you have to instrumental up to the top of the hour? Did you have top of the hour news?
Oh, yes. We had top of the hour news.
We had mutual news at the top of the hour, and if you had only a minute or two, you had instrumentals that you could play.
Oh, yeah.
Over on the AM side of things, or you could talk it up with the weather.
I'd just grab an obituary.
Dude, I did obituaries when I was 15 years old.
I did too,
Start
man.
reading out of the paper.
Oh, my goodness. No, that WTWA, that local full-service AM radio station in a small town of Thompson, Georgia, no P in Thompson, THOMSON, those obituaries made that radio station more money than anything else we did throughout the day.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Yes, sir. Stufflebean Funeral Home, Pauls Valley, Oklahoma. Look them up. They're like the only game in town.
Oh, man. Let me tell you, on Saturday mornings, if one of those funeral homes, Crawford Funeral Homes or Biggs Funeral Home, I can still remember them. If they had not paid their bill, Mike Wall, the owner of the radio station, would give you a call and say, hey, Old man Crawford's coming by with a check. Make sure, and he would tell me the amount, like, make sure it's $890. If it's any less, don't read his obits. But if he brings you the check for $890, start reading the obits.
Oh, man.
Back in the day. And then you would do we did the Wheeler Dealer Show.
Yes, sir.
Which was our version of the Swamp Shop.
Yeah.
You got to have that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You got people calling in for the Wheeler Dealer Show. Anyway, that's this trip down memory lane brought to you by Ken, Chris, and Matt Murphy. Old School Radio. Super Talk 99.7 WT.
Thought it was going to be a funeral home.
Yeah, well, maybe. I mean, hey, look. Dollar a holler, y'all. I mean, any funeral homes out there, you want to get in on it, we'll do it. Right after the bottom of the hour news with Ken Weaver, Matt Murphy, and the obituaries.
Tell them Curtis Digger sent you by.
Curtis Digger.
How can you tell them if you're a customer, Ken? I don't.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Let me tell you, some of those people would get mad if you mispronounce their grandbaby's name.
Yeah.
And I was like, don't y'all have I'm 16 years old, y'all. I don't know how to pronounce this last name. Don't y'all have more important things to do than call the radio station? My grandmama died and you mispronounced his name. Okay, I'm sorry.
Well, and they never typed the obituaries. We just had our front desk person, June. She would write it out in cursive.
Oh.
So I'm sure I mispronounced a lot of names.
Ours, for the most part, we would have them, some of the funeral homes would send them to us typed on their letterhead. Or more often than not, someone, I don't know who did it because I was just a part-timer, would clip them out of the paper and then run them through the copier and blow them up.
Yeah.
And you had a lot of those in the file. All right, we've got important matters to get to. There are Senate confirmations happening today. As a matter of fact, we're a little bit slow on the uptake on the Senate confirmation. Let's go, Senate. Donald Trump's running 90-0. He's already accomplished more in 4 full days as president of the United States of America than Joe Biden did in the last 3.5 years. And look, 3.5 years. And I'm not being hyperbolic. I tell you that President Donald Trump has done more in 4 days than Joe Biden managed to accomplish in 3.5 years. I exclude the first half year of his presidency because he actually did that Inflation Reduction Act that did not reduce anything, including inflation. But I suppose that's an accomplishment that he crammed through the House and the Senate and eventually signed, promising us that everything would be fine in the economy and the aftermath. Donald Trump was in North Carolina earlier today. He's going to be in California as well. Yes, there are conditions on federal aid in California, and he floated the idea in North Carolina of eliminating FEMA altogether, something that I've been begging for years now. There is nothing that we can't accomplish state by state that we accomplish through the federal government. There's nothing the federal government does as efficiently as we would do at the state level, or even more importantly, at the local level. So we'll discuss those things. Speaking of Senate confirmations, Pete Hegseth lost to Republicans earlier today in an advancement vote. It advanced to the floor of the United States Senate. And you're saying, well, why don't we have a vote yet, Murphy? Because the Democrats, the minority party, exercised their right to hold off an extended debate by a certain number of hours. I think it's 9 hours or something like that. But it is expected the Senate will be there under the leadership of Majority Leader John Thune until they get a vote tonight. So we will know tonight whether or not Pete Hegseth passes muster. And the key vote, well, we lost to Republicans, so you're at 51-49. You can actually lose another one, and you still have a tiebreaker in J.D. Vance. The one that everyone's watching is Mitch McConnell. So I want to talk to my friends up there north of the border, up north of Portland Way, up in Franklin, Kentucky, or Bowling Green, or some of those other areas where you pick us up on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's old boy doing up there? Like more of the same? I don't believe for a second that Mitch McConnell will bow at the altar of big government and the deep state and the Democrats. But he's proven me wrong before. 615-737-9986. In a moment, we'll talk with Courtney Johnston. She is a Metro City Councilor, and she has a few things to say about the tragedy that happened at Antioch High School earlier in the week. We'll do that next on Super Talk. Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy for Stoltz Co. So if you have property and you're thinking about buying a building to go on that property, like an outbuilding, why in the world would you do that, one of these prefabricated deals, when you could go to Stoltz Co. and have a customized structure at a reasonable price built for you on site? Stoltz Co. is the leading company in first-class customer service and the creation of post-frame buildings such as barn dominiums, pole barns, garages, equestrian spaces, event spaces, just a fun-to-have space. And if you go to their website and see some of the quality, the fine quality that they're building over at Stoltz Co., you will never look back at one of those prefab deals. You'll look only at Stoltz Co. They'll talk to you about the customization options that you have when you sit down with them and plan your space on your property or in your yard with Stoltz Co. Go to STOLTZco.com. That's StoltzCo.com. Include the CO. Stoltz Co. 615-622-5992. Once again, 615-622-5992. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Stoltz Co. Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about Spice and Easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
It doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
Channel 4 says Antioch High School students are organizing a school walkout on Monday to pressure the Metro Nashville Public School District to address their safety concerns in light of this week's deadly shooting. That story and more coming up at 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Ken Weaver. There's Ken Weaver in News Closet B. Chris Weber running the controls, making sure that everything that comes out of our speakers sounds as good as humanly possible. And it's hard work with me at the controls. My name is Matt Murphy, and this is the Matt Murphy Show. We thank you for for being along on First Amendment Freestyle Friday. It's freestyle only in as much as we do have a couple of guests to talk about some specific matters. And our first one is a good friend of the show. It is Courtney Johnston. She is a Metro City Councilor with the city of Nashville, and she joins us in studio to talk about, I wish it were better things that we were talking about. I wish it was fun stuff and all of those sorts of things. Man, I wish we could get into the issue of FUSIS. Freddie said it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he told me. He was sitting right there when he told me. Do you buy into that?
Well, I think we have the votes for sure. I think there were several council members that their constituents made it very clear that they were disappointed in their no vote. And so there's going to be some people that are going to change and what I think is do the right thing and vote yes.
And then he said he was going to get to another issue. He said in order they're going to deal with FUSIS. And then he said right here on these airwaves that they would get to, wait for it now, license plate readers. So I'm certain we're very excited about that. Looking forward to that.
Well, the interesting thing is that we could pass LPRs and approve those contracts today, but the mayor didn't put that money into the budget for this year. And so unless we do a supplemental, we're going to have to wait until at least July the 1st when our fiscal year starts again.
Oh, interesting, Matt. Well,
yeah.
We will put those on the back burner and anxiously await future conversations about that. But, obviously, this situation at Antioch High School, it saddens all of us that we're dealing with yet another school shooting in the metro area. Just give me your thoughts as you heard the news and what you know today about what we found out.
Yeah. So obviously it's just an unbelievable tragedy, and I can't even imagine what the parents of that young lady are going through, and also the students that witnessed that. Sadly, one of my initial reactions, besides being sad and a little angry, actually, is the fact that I'm not surprised.
Why are you not surprised?
Because we are not doing everything that we can possibly do to make our schools safe. And so if anybody that's heard this on the news, that this school shooting happened, and they were surprised by it, they're not paying attention.
All right, so let's just start with some of the basic questions. I'll tell you what, actually, I want to pause it there. I want to lay kind of the groundwork because there's some basic questions that folks have had about issues involving metal detectors, whether or not they had been brought in. Had they been at the school? If so, why were they not in place at the time that this happened? And I think Courtney has some answers for us in that regard. Courtney Johnston is with us. We'll take a short time out for news, traffic, weather, and all of those things, and be back with Courtney Johnston in just a moment. It is the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. We'll tell you about the warm-up underway. Channel 4's Jordan James says Antioch High School students are organizing a school walkout on Monday to pressure the Metro Nashville School District to address the student safety concerns in light of this week's deadly shooting.
For many of these students, their deepest fear came to light this past Wednesday when that shooting occurred, resulting in their 16-year-old classmate Jocelyn Escalante losing her life. Now, before Wednesday, students say there have been troubling incidents at the school, such as guns being brought on campus and fights. They're now hoping that this tragedy and their collective voices will be heard.
In our nation's capital, looks like Pete Hegseth has the votes to be confirmed as Defense Secretary. Tennessee U.S. Senator Bill Haggerty telling Fox News the vote will likely be around 7:45 Middle Tennessee time tonight. Target is officially ending its diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, goals, but it's issued a statement that supports an inclusive focus after President Trump's executive order scrapping DEI initiatives in the federal government. The Target chain announcing an end to its 3-year DEI program, also ending, it says, as planned, a racial equity action and change program and stopping diversity-focused surveys. But its statement also says it's focused on growth with a commitment to inclusion for employees, customers, and communities, with references using the words all and everyone. Costco shareholders have voted to go a different direction.
Preliminary results from Costco executives at its annual meeting show more than 98% of shares voted against the proposal to scrap DEI initiatives. The National Center for Public Policy Research, a conservative think tank in Washington, submitted the proposal, arguing the DEI policies have legal and financial risks for the company. It's made a similar proposal to Apple. The Costco board says its commitment rooted in respect and inclusion is appropriate and necessary.
That's Chuck Severson reporting, and the latest news, traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Airport got a crash blocking the off-ramp 40 eastbound to Donaldson Pike. Rural Hill left 2 lanes blocked, 24 westbound just after Bell Road. Then we got 65 southbound at 24 downtown blocking the right shoulder. In Murfreesboro, a stalled vehicle partially blocking the off-ramp from 840 westbound to Jefferson Pike. Then back up around Antioch. Looks like police still reporting slow traffic. They're from I-440 due to a crash. They're 24 eastbound at Harding Place that had been moved off to the shoulder. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
We talk often when we talk about Nashville Safe House regarding the possibility of theft or fire in your home or your place of business. And sadly, it is a reality in Metro Nashville that it could happen to you. Is that reality a possibility that's going to happen tomorrow or the next day? Probably not, but it is out there. And with Nashville Safe House, they can help you protect those things that are most important to you, securing them in a high-quality safe from Nashville Safe House. And you will find the right safe for you. And if you don't, I don't know. It's on you. I mean, no offense, but they have every manner of safe, size, brand, price point in America and the world at Nashville Safe House. I would put the selection of safes at Nashville Safe House against any other location in the United States of America. That means that we in Nashville have the best selection in the world. They have 200 safes in the showroom. They have another 400 or so in stock, ready to go for their professional delivery crews. Let's get with Nashville Safe House and find the right safe for you. Remember, gun safes are always sales tax free. Great gift. Nashville Safe House is celebrating their 31st, I should say, anniversary coming up a little bit later on this year. So get by 4th Avenue South, Nashville Safe House, across from City Cemetery. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you. Hey, look, we talk often about waterproofing issues and basic foundation issues when it comes to talking about USS. USS stands for United Structural Systems, but I don't talk enough about concrete leveling. If you have settling sidewalks or driveways, sinking slabs or patio steps in and around your property, that can be a danger to you and your loved ones. If your porches are settling and they've become tilted on their steps, there is a less expensive way than digging all of that up and repouring that concrete. I mean, I'm talking a significantly less expensive way, and that is the Polylift system. It is an incredible moisture-resistant polyurethane foam. It will never wash out, and this polyurethane foam is environmentally friendly. It doesn't degrade. It doesn't leach into the ground, and it supports your concrete, gets it back into its natural position. I've seen this work because I did it in my home in Birmingham, and now it's time for you to get it done with USS, United Structural Systems. They guarantee their best. Call USS at 615-488-7855, 615-488-7855. Over 25,000 satisfied customers. Homeowners simply trust USS. Online at USSTN.com. Indeed. 337 Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Spending some time talking with Courtney Johnston, Metro City Councilor. She was a candidate for the 5th Congressional District. Hey, do you see that amendment that Andy proposed?
I did, Matt.
Yeah?
I did.
What were your thoughts about that?
I just rolled my eyes. And I think, honestly, Trump probably rolled his eyes as well. Yeah,
it's a little bit. We talked a little about it yesterday afternoon, and we might talk a little more about it this afternoon. I don't know what to say about it. Even our good friend Andy's supporters don't seem that impressed with it. That said, let's talk about this.
Yeah.
So Antioch High School, what preparations were made through the Metro Council, through the school board, Dr. Adrian Battle's office? What, if anything, had been done previous to this issue, this violent killing, that should have or could have prevented it?
So this conversation obviously heated up in 2023 after the Covenant shooting, where we said, okay, hold on, this is obviously very serious. And so we started talking about ballistic glass and ballistic film on the glass. And the school board pushed against that. We started talking about SROs in the schools, and the school board pushed against that. We talked about metal detectors. We talked about, several different things. And I feel like the school board pushed against everything. At that time, they weren't even being trained constantly and consistently as far as teachers and staff. Mm-hmm. And so I pushed on that, and they said, oh, well, we were trained by MNPD. And I looked at MNPD and I said, okay, when was that training? And they couldn't give me a date because it didn't exist. So no, we need training. We need our staff trained to know the response, I'm told, at Antioch High School, and this is not a dig against the teachers because it's traumatic, but they were not prepared for that.
Well, and if they're not, and it truly isn't a dig at people who have not gone through the training. The teachers haven't gone through training even if they've wanted to, because the administration, they're dragging their feet or what?
Well, they have gone through some training. Not last summer, but the summer before, they did an off-site where between 400 and 500 teachers or staff came in for about an hour and a half to go over CRAZE, which is citizen response to an active shooter event. But if it's not site specific, you're just getting tidbits of things. Mm-hmm. And so the next year they did do site specific. So if you were with whatever your school is, teacher, you were trained there. But again, it was only for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And once a year is just not going to cut it. It's easier probably from a scheduling perspective for MNPD and MNPS to come together in the summertime when teachers are, when school is not in session. But the labor unions won't allow teachers to come in before August 1st. So that sort of shortens that timeline, which in my opinion is ridiculous. I also think we should have more regular training. It should be at least once every semester. We've got to start setting the tone for safety in our schools. And when administration and staff start taking it very seriously, that's when the students will take it seriously as well.
What I hear that it was all over the map in terms of the response. And And obviously, I'm sensitive to the fact that I've never been through anything like this. So I don't want to suggest how I would respond. But obviously, training and repetition of training, like you're talking about, would perhaps ingrain in the minds of the educators what to do if, God forbid, something like this happens again.
Yeah, it's one thing to know what to do. It's a whole nother thing when it happens and the adrenaline is going crazy. People are running around screaming, like it's a whole different world when it's actually happening versus going through training. And so that's why you want to be trained constantly, consistently, and I push on this really hard as well, by MNPD, because those are the folks that are going to be responding to the 911 call. You want the people that are responding to be the ones that are training the people that are already on site.
Now, we've gotten mixed messages about metal detectors at Antioch High School. I think that I've had it enough. It's been told to me enough that at some point metal detectors were approved for and even purchased for Antioch High School. What do you know about that?
Yeah, I'm told the same thing. It was like during COVID, and there were some metal detectors. There was a student that went on the news that said that they were there for about a week and then they were taken out. Very, very frustrating, and especially when you have Dr. Battle on the television talking about how, well, there's so many studies out there that show unintended consequences of these metal detectors, except for that's never expanded on, right? Okay,
Right.
so what are
do you
the
mean?
unintended consequences? Because the unintended consequence of not having them there is that a gun got into the school and killed 2 kids.
Do we know yet at this point how the 17-year-old got the gun in the school?
No, I had heard that he hid it in the bathroom and then he went in that day. So, but
if that's the case, then if you had so you're dealing with 2 different scenarios, right? You're dealing with and I had Brink Fiddler with Defense Systems on the day that this awful tragedy happened, and he indicated that 80% or over 80% of school violence happens with someone committing the violence that's supposed to be there, like a student or a teacher, faculty member, whatever. And in those circumstances, those people will be allowed access into the school. So in those circumstances, it seems to me that metal detectors are even more important on a day-to-day basis, especially if we find out that this young man planted that gun, because that indicates to me that he was going in and out of entry points that should have been protected through a system like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Last school year, 19 guns were recovered from MNPS schools without any metal detectors. This relies mostly on students either telling the administrative professional there or SROs. This year, we've already recovered 12, and we're a little over halfway through the school year. And 3 of those, including the one on Wednesday, were at Antioch High School. So guess what's happening right now as we speak at Antioch High School?
Metal detectors?
They're installing metal detectors, and it's just one life too late.
Well, what I would like to know from Dr. Adrienne Battle, and sadly, Adrienne Battle does not engage in conversation where she might be asked difficult questions. What unintended consequences were you talking about previous to this incident that happened at Antioch High School? And why are you not so concerned about those unintended consequences at this point now that we have lost a life? Well, 2, really. I mean, sadly, this mentally disturbed individual took his own life. So what is okay now that wasn't okay a week ago?
Right.
That's what we want to know.
Yeah, and I mean, I certainly can't answer that for her. I am glad that they're going in. I wish we had them there, the entire time, and maybe this wouldn't have happened. Can we guarantee that it wouldn't happen? No, but it would be less likely. I would feel comfortable saying less likely.
What authority, if any, does the Metro Nashville City Council have?
0.
You know what I'm going to ask,
0,
right?
yes.
So, I mean, so you don't have any authority to hold Adrienne Battle to account over some of this?
No, only the school board.
And what authority does the Metro Council have over the school board?
0.
I feel like that frustrates you.
Well, of course it frustrates me. We are, whether it's the administration, the mayor's office, or the legislative body, which is the council, all we are is a funding mechanism. We fund schools, and we don't even have the ability to hold them accountable to the original budget that they present to us to ask for whatever dollar amount that they're asking for. They can go and spend whatever they want to. It could be the same. It could be different. There's no accountability there. So yeah, it's a little frustrating. It's also frustrating that there's something called maintenance of effort. It's state law that we cannot give them less this year than we gave them last year, ever.
So you can't even use the power of the purse to withhold funding as a way to attempt to stimulate action on things like this.
Correct. You could hold it steady, but you cannot take away.
What if I made Courtney Johnston in control of all of this? What would your immediate steps be in terms of? I know that there are no guarantees. I mean, in a free and open society, we're not guaranteed that we will be secure.
Yeah.
But what would you do that would? I mean, you've already taken steps. I mean, you initiated the action to get the film in our Metro Nashville school systems. Did you not?
I did. They pushed against that, and their big thing was, well, we don't have the money. And I said, okay, great. How much money is it going to take to put ballistic film on all of the schools? And they said, I think $5 million. I had it within a week.
Oh, you got the piece of paper. You got the receipts.
I've got the receipt right here.
Yeah.
I filed that legislation. It was approved the next meeting. Interestingly, and I showed you this earlier, after Covenant, I did a resolution, and I'm just going to read it because I would love for anybody.
Everyone needs to hear this.
Yeah, the Metropolitan Council hereby directs the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department to conduct an evaluation of the safety plans and measures of the Metropolitan Nashville Public Schools. This review shall include a list of recommendations that should be implemented district-wide to include capital improvements, professional training, and any human resources they see fit, as well as an individual site assessment for each MNPS school. This report shall be made public to the extent possible, understanding some information will be site-specific and should remain confidential. So that was a resolution that I did back in 2023 after Covenant.
And just in layman's terms, if I heard you correctly, that's basically, hey, we need to look at all of our schools and make sure that we're as safe as we can possibly be in the aftermath of such a tragedy like happened at Covenant School.
Right.
That's the basic.
Yes. MNPD is our safety specialist.
Right.
And so I want them to go in and say, this is what every school should have. This is what this specific. And I understand there's some security concerns. You're certainly not going to put a site map up and say, oh, we have this here. So that's why I put in there's going to be certain things that are going to be site specifically redacted in order to protect the privacy and the security of that particular site. And the school board lobbied council members against it. And this resolution failed.
The resolution that you just described to us, asking for safety and security checks through the Metro Nashville Police Department on the school system, school board members lobbied against that?
Yes.
Why? Or do you have a guess?
Right. I have no idea. A lot of it was, a site-specific stuff. But it's like, okay, reading comprehension here, folks. Some information, they don't want to be held.
They don't want to be held accountable.
Right. Because if the MNPD says you should do A, B, C, and they don't do A, B, C, and then something happens,
then they're responsible.
Right, exactly. And I think that to me is my interpretation of it. And so if I had control over all of this, which obviously I do not, we would have in-depth training at least every semester for all of our the students as well, but our faculty and staff. We would have a clear bag policy. We would have metal detectors on at least every middle and high school. They're AI cameras that I've never.
Yeah, the AI technology, apparently the gun spotter technology did not work.
Well, that technology would be helpful outside the school. If you see someone like Audrey Hale walking up to the school and the camera picks it up, hey, you've got someone approaching the school with a firearm.
Right.
That's helpful. But if that gun is coming into the school in a backpack,
right,
in a purse,
without a metal detector,
right, in a waistband covered with your jacket or your sweater or whatever, the camera's not going to see it. And so just like this young man did, he pulled that gun out and within 17 seconds fired off 10 shots and killed himself and another female. And so that's not the technology for that, but it didn't work anyway.
Courtney, what is your message to people who are listening to this? And I'm getting a lot of response on the super text line, and people are just infuriated that our superintendent of Metro Schools doesn't seem to care before the fact. She speaks a good game after the fact and talks about how concerned she is. And invariably, sadly, a lot of the school board members who are responsible for this, in my estimation, if they're denying or if they're actively lobbying against common sense approaches like the one that you've presented, then these people are responsible. What do we need to do? I feel like the parents need to show up at the next school board meeting and demand action.
I will say, so elections matter is all I can say. These are elected positions. Dr. Battle is not elected. She is hired and fired by the school board. But these are elected positions, and we have extremely low voter turnout in all of these local elections, and we are the ones that affect your daily lives way more than anybody in Washington, D.C., or even on Capitol Hill, quite frankly. That's what's going to make the change, is when people, citizens, parents start advocating for themselves and making it very clear and very known what they want to see done in their schools to protect their children.
You got to speak out, folks. Courtney, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the information. There's Courtney Johnston, Metro City Councilor, joining us for a few good minutes. We'll be back in a moment. It's 52 after the hour. You're listening to Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, friends, now is the time. It is Jan. It'll be February before you know it, and then it's March, and things start blooming, and things start growing, and the pests start coming out of the woodwork. The pests are already in your house, folks, if you don't have U.S. Pest protecting you. U.S. Pest is the one-stop shop for all things pest control. Full-service pest control available. Termite protection available. Crawl space service also available, and all 100% money-back guaranteed. Preventative and corrective services are available for termite protection, and every home in Tennessee is threatened by termites. And then, of course, these are the bugs that come into your house. I'm talking about roaches and really rodents like mice and rats and whatnot. They want your warmth and they want your food this time of year, and they're getting it if you let them. Get protected through U.S. Pest. Don't stop that monthly protection just because it's cold out. Cold attracts those bugs and those creepy crawlies into your home. Let's get it done. Free pest and termite inspection right now at uspest.com. That's uspest.com, or call 590-1260. Tell J.K., Erica, and the rest of the crew Matt Murphy sent you to U.S. Pest. Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
It doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
Lot of talk about what should have been done at Antioch High School before Wednesday's shooting. We'll let you hear what Metro Council member Courtney Johnston just told Matt Murphy at 4 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'll let you know what Courtney Johnston just told Matt Murphy before she left our studio here as well. And that is we talked about the box cutter incident yesterday on the show, that we were told the 17-year-old that committed this deadly act, killed a 16-year-old girl, wounded another, and killed himself, had confronted another student with a box cutter. That is true. Happened a year ago, was not expelled from school, and apparently the reason why was because the girl who was confronted, her parents did not want to press charges, which should not have mattered. You know, if I punch Chris Webber in the face and he doesn't want to press charges against me, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to get fired. Well, I'd say that. I didn't get fired for punching Bell in the face, so maybe not. No, it's infuriating. We'll continue the discussion. Friday's coming up as well. It's 4 o'clock on Super Talk.
Four o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got a warm-up coming this weekend. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Here's Metro Council member Courtney Johnston with an update on Antioch High School in the aftermath of Wednesday's deadly shooting in the cafeteria and what she just told WTN's Matt Murphy.
Last school year, 19 guns were recovered from MNPS schools without any metal detectors. This relies mostly on students either telling the administrative professional there or SROs. This year, we've already recovered 12, and we're a little over halfway through the school year. And 3 of those, including the one on Wednesday, were at Antioch High School. So guess what's happening right now as we speak at Antioch High School? They're installing metal detectors, and it's just one life too late.
And there are reports metal detectors had been pulled out of Antioch High School due to what MNPS Director Dr. Adrian Battle claimed were unintended consequences. Advocates against abortion in the March for Life rally today in our nation's capital. Vice President Vance, one of the people who spoke.
We need a culture that celebrates life at all stages, one that recognizes and truly believes that the benchmark of national success is not our GDP number or our stock market, but whether people feel that they can raise thriving and healthy families in our country.
Counter-protesters were expected to hold their own demonstration outside the Supreme Court. The mayor of Newark, New Jersey, speaking out against what he calls an ICE raid in his city.
Some ICE agents raided a business in our city without a warrant. They went in the back of the establishment. We believe that there were 3 people who they say were undocumented that they detained, but they also detained folks that were, in fact, citizens of this country.
Well, this is what Stephen Miller, who is Trump's White House policy advisor and deputy chief of staff.
Tomorrow we'll have more removals than today, and then more removals the day after that and the day after that, particularly as we bring more beds online, we bring more planes online, and we bring more law enforcement partners.
President Trump and the First Lady on their way to California to meet with victims of the devastating wildfires.
In an abrupt switch, Southern California is going from red flag fire warnings, fire danger warnings, and wind warnings expiring today to a winter weather advisory for rain and snow in the mountains. It won't be a ton of rain, but enough that there are worries in the recent wildfire burn zones because the ground is so charred that it cannot absorb water. It's prone to mudslides and debris flows. Free sandbags are available, and concrete barriers are being put into place to divert water and mud.
Now, the President and First Lady first visited Hurricane Helene victims in North Carolina today, and President Trump told reporters he's going to ask Congress for more disaster relief for North Carolina and other Helene victims, and he vowed to overhaul or get rid of FEMA through executive action. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy for Genesis Diamonds. My friends at Genesis Diamonds are pumped up for 2025. Let's talk specifically about Valentine's Day. Gentlemen, want to talk with you because whether or not you like Valentine's Day is of no consequence. The loved one in your life, the lady in your life, she loves Valentine's Day. And she might be picking you out a beautiful Rolex from Genesis Diamonds as a result. What are you getting her? If you've not thought about it, they've expanded their selection of exquisite hand-picked diamonds, a half carat to 15 carats, all shapes, all sizes, all at Genesis Diamond with no middleman prices. Of course, Genesis has their truly spectacular collection of luxury-owned, pre-owned Rolex timepieces, which is just something to see. And ladies, if the guy in your life is looking for something, this might be something for Valentine's Day as well. They guarantee the best value, the highest quality diamonds, and the strongest warranties and guarantees in the jewelry industry. No commission salespeople. It's so nice. You walk in, you've got a casual, laid-back atmosphere for you to select, and you don't have to be an expert in diamond picking. They are the experts. Genesis Diamonds and luxury pre-owned Rolex timepieces. Green Hills and Cool Springs. Till Matt Murphy sent you to Genesis.
Starting to see the usual slowdowns build. Northbound 65 to eastbound 440, northbound 65 to eastbound 40 on the South Loop. And then if you are 24, you've got brake tapping all the way down to Laverne. But it is especially heavy there between 40 and 440. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, here we are. Here we go. Hour number 2 of the Matt Murphy Radio Show. It is a First Amendment Freestyle Friday. All day long, we accept your telephone calls about any matter of your choosing. 615-737-9986. No waiting. 615-737-WWTN if you want to kind of spell it out on your phone there, if you so desire. You can also hit us up on the Super Text line, and I invite you, if you have any questions for our man, Jay St. Clair, whom we'll be introducing in mere moments, you may get them in. 615-737-9986, either via text or phone, and we'll get to those questions presently. I will mention this. We've got Jody Barrett coming up. Representative Barrett will be here in the 6 o'clock hour to discuss his, I don't want to say opposition because I've not spoken to Jody about it directly, but his concern about the Education Freedom Act, which is set to be before the General Assembly next week. That is a special session called by the governor. He will deal with immigration-based issues. He will deal with funding for East Tennessee hurricane relief, and we will deal with the issue, the matter of school choice. This development just coming across my desk, actually my phone. You can follow me, by the way, at Matt Murphy Show, where I have just tweeted this letter out. The letter comes from Erica Donalds, who is the chair of the Center for Education Opportunity. the American First Policy Institute. And it is a letter sent to the Honorable Cameron Sexton, the Speaker of the House of the General Assembly of the State of Tennessee, and the Honorable Randy McNally, who is the Lieutenant Governor and the Speaker of the Senate. I'll just read a portion of this, then we'll get to Friday. Dear Lieutenant Governor McNally and Speaker Sexton, President Donald J. Trump called school choice the civil rights issue of our time. To that end, the America First Policy Institute is committed to supporting President Trump's call for every child, regardless of their zip code, to receive a quality education, and for every parent to have options when it comes to their child's education, regardless of their economic status. We're looking to states like Tennessee to lead on this critical issue. The AFPI wholeheartedly supports your effort and that of Governor Bill Lee to enact the Education Freedom Scholarship Act because we agree that every Tennessee parent deserves to be empowered with school choice for their child. In fact, and they go on to quote the recent poll by the Beacon Center of Tennessee revealing that 67% of Tennesseans agree with this. So this ultimately is a matter of Donald J. Trump endorsing the Education Freedom Act. Interesting what some who are against this, who are conservative, would have to say about that. Either Donald Trump doesn't know what he's doing, doesn't know what he's talking about, perhaps is ill-informed on the matter, or he does. And those who are against it are standing against Donald Trump, which is fine, I mean, some people do, and normally they come out a little worse for wear as a result. We'll find out from Jody Barrett what this development might mean for his support or non-support of the issue. At 10 minutes after 4 o'clock, it is Friday, and it is my pleasure to introduce you to Fry J. Oh, yeah. Love this time. Love this time of the week, and not just because it signals that I only have 2 hours to go before the weekend is here, also because it gives me an opportunity to talk to my very best friend, our legal expert and correspondent, my life consultant, and my gambling buddy. His name is Jay St. Clair, and he joins us on this Friday. Hello, Jay.
Hey, buddy.
Jay, I've got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
How you doing?
You know, if I were any better, man, I would. That's a tough choice, really. I'm tempted to say I'd be Carrie Underwood, but I would be J.D. Vance. Did you see the way his wife was looking at him as he was getting sworn in?
Man, that is such an American story, is it not? Every
and
bit
those little
about it.
kids, and the deal about little kids and particularly little girls wearing Band-Aids.
Yeah, right.
I didn't know anything about that, but yeah, you know, I'm not going to say I'm anything like J.D. Vance, but we've had a couple of things in common. Grew up well in the South or Appalachia, not of great means, and then went to Yale Law School.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to sit down with him and talk about his experience at the Yale Law School. But yeah, it's an absolutely American dream. It's the only country I know of in the world when something like that can happen. And it just gives me really hope, a lot of hope for the future, man.
Mine too. I mean, it does me too. And you're right. It was a pretty special moment between those two. And it's and anyone that, even with a modicum of objectivity, to read his story, to look at his story, I mean, it is truly what the United States of America is all about. That anybody that sets their mind to it, regardless of where they come from, regardless of what obstacles might be put in their way, if they're dedicated to the task, this country provides them the opportunity to accomplish just about anything. And it's pretty special.
Well, and it's what we're talking about with this DEI and a lot of this other stuff. It's meritocracy at its best.
Yes, sir.
We do not have aristocracy. We have meritocracy. And it just, I'm really, really optimistic about the future, Matt, in a way that I'll confess to you that I haven't. The 21st century has not turned out like I thought it would, man.
Mm.
But things are turning around.
Things are turning around. So wait a minute.
And then quickly.
I don't want to get too far past this, Jay, because you said that you and JD went to the same law school. Is that right?
Yep. Absolutely.
Where'd you go to law school, Jay?
Yale.
Where'd you go to law school, Jay?
Has Chris ever heard that joke?
I don't know.
That was my first time.
We-
What are we on? Hee haw?
That will never not be funny.
Jay St. Clair and I have been doing that joke for 20 years on the radio. And for 20 years, at least 2 people think it's funny. Just at least 2.
I think it's hilarious.
Well, you're one of the 2, and I'm one of the 2. And I don't know if anybody else thinks it's funny, but we think it's funny, and that's good enough.
Well, it's funny. It's funny.
Jay, lots to get into. I mean, man, it is a whirlwind of activity over the first 4 days of Donald Trump's presidency. You know, I want to get into birthright citizenship with you and talk about that, and there's a lot to dig into on that subject. But you know, it's something that we first addressed. You brought it to me. You made me aware of Chevron to begin with. I thought Chevron was just a gas station, but you said, no, Matt, you need to look into Chevron because this is a problem in America and we need to address it, and it's Congress not doing its job. And I think this is also an issue, and I don't begrudge Donald Trump for the number of executive orders he's writing. But, does this – it feels like we're doing more of this in modern times, and a lot of it's kind of a tit for tat. Well, you're going to write these executive orders, well, I'm going to come in and I'm just going to rescind them and I'm going to pull back and we're going to do something else. What are your thoughts on all of these executive orders?
Well, you know, there probably are a lot more being entered now than before, and I think I can explain to you why. It's not one size fits all, man. So we can't paint with too broad of a brush about this. You really have to look at each one individually. I'll give you some examples of some that are clearly appropriate, and I don't think anybody would have any problem with them. A hiring freeze. The president comes in, and first day he says, hey, we're not going to hire anybody else until I get my arms around what's going on and whether we really even need to hire anybody. Entirely appropriate. He is the chief executive. And that's frankly really not that out of the ordinary. And so so some of them fall in that bucket, Matt. Then others fall in the bucket of each administration comes in and puts their own imprimatur on policy out of the executive office. And as the parties get further apart, when the parties change, the next person wants to come in and undo everything that the prior president did that he had discretion to do. The president does have some discretion in doing things. And so a lot of what Trump did was just undo or stop what the previous administration did. Entirely appropriate, entirely legal, within his authority. So you have to look at them. Really, they're coming in very different flavors. And here's another one, and there's been very little talk in the mainstream press about this, and I don't know if it's even got on your radar screen or not. It is huge on my radar screen.
Okay.
Huge.
Okay.
And it is the revoking, and it's just a prior executive order that goes back to the 60s, before the Civil Rights Act got passed, that requires affirmative action, not non-discrimination, Matt. There's a big difference here. Affirmative action for all companies that contract with the federal government. It's huge, and it is awful. The way it is administered, Matt, is awful. It not in the law itself, but in practice, it is quotas. It's absolutely racial and sex quotas for any company that does business with the federal government.
Well, let me give you an example from my childhood and see if this is what you're talking about. You ready?
Okay.
So my grandpa, is a self-employed mechanic, and he worked with a lot of big companies, and one of them was a grassing company that did a lot of work with the Department of Transportation in the state of Georgia.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
And by extension did some work with the federal government. And Mr. Ronnie Hudson had a guy that worked with him that was an African-American that he gave part ownership of his company to.
Right.
And he did so in order to secure government contracts.
Yeah, to be a minority-owned business.
To be a minority-owned business. Is that what
they got preference.
Is that what you're talking about?
Well, that's part of it. That's part of it. It's a related law. It's not exactly what I was talking about before, but it's the same concept.
Okay.
And this is going to be huge. And I don't think that there's anything they're going to be able to do about it. because it was just an executive order from a prior president. It doesn't have anything to do with the Constitution. Doesn't have anything to do with statute. So if this goes through, and I listen, this is what I do for a living, man. I can tell you horror stories about how this executive order has been administered in real life. And so we'll see. But that's another
That's very
bucket
interesting.
of them. But then you have ones like Trump, this birthright citizenship thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's a totally different bucket.
Mm-hmm.
Totally different bucket than any of these others. And I know we're going to talk about that, so I won't get into it now. So you can't. It's not a one size fits all thing. Is what I'm trying to say, Matt. They come in very different flavors. Some of them are vanilla. No big deal. Some of them are just chocolate. Oh, some of them are orange sherbet. Those are maybe the most tasty ones, the orange sherbet.
Do you say sherbet? I always said sherbet.
Well, sherbet.
Well, I mean, I'm going to defer to you, Jay. You're smarter than me, but sherbet. You say sherbet. I've always said sherbet.
Well, I got an East Tennessee accent, so I'm not sure I defer to anything.
All right, so Jay's there. We're going to suspend it for just a moment. We will continue talking about executive orders. We'll take your questions. Some of those are already rolling in. Hey, Jay, Sally has already chimed in and said Sally is helping the rest of the crew out. Sally says, hey, Chris, hey, Ken, the answer is $400 and an orange crayon.
Oh, orange crayon, Sally, I love it.
Orange crayon, specifically.
I love
orange. It. You better write it in an orange crayon if it's in the state of Tennessee. 6380 says, it took me about 2 minutes. Yale equals Yale. Yes, it's funny. Well, of course it's funny. And Patrick said, it's the first time I've heard that joke. I just spit coffee all over my truck. Well, you send the cleaning of that truck. You go get that truck cleaned, and you send the bill to Jay St. Clair in Birmingham, Alabama, and I'm sure he'll pay.
That will always be funny.
We'll be back in a moment, 21 after the hour on Super Talk. All right, so we've got exciting new deals for the Glock store in 2025, and I've got a new year and a new deal for you. I mean, January is not yet up, and if you schedule a range session at the shoot270.com indoor range, the Glock store is not only going to give you some great personalized instruction in a private shooting room, which is pretty cool, they're also going to give you an opportunity to shoot a full auto. Now, you can go with the H&K suppressed MP5, and that's all well and good. But if you mention my name, you can do what I did this morning. This morning, I was at the Glock store. This morning, I was training with Mitch. And this morning, I shot an AK-47 full auto. And it was a hell of an experience, let me tell you. I have never had the chance to shoot a full auto. And I shot one this morning at the Glock store, and I didn't want to leave. I wanted to go buy more ammo, and I wanted to shoot more because it was that much fun. And you can have that level of fun. All you have to do is mention my name. Now, look, Dan and Chris and I have a little friendly competition, and I'm already in the lead, if I do say so myself, in terms of this competition. But I want to improve my lead. And in doing so, you get to shoot. Now, you can choose the MP5. That's fine. You can shoot the Sten like Dan did the other day, and that's fine. Or you can upgrade to the AK-47, mentioning my name. Only in Nashville and only at the incomparable Glock store. Go to shoot270.com or glockstore.com. Minutes away from the airport, worth the drive from anywhere. It's the Glock store.
Metro Council member Courtney Johnston talks about what is a pattern of ignoring school safety recommendations on the part of the superintendent and the MNPS board. We'll have that for you at 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
You can find us on the Super Talk television side of things, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and you can get a good look at my ugly mug and Jay's prettier one by doing so. Jay, you look great on the Zoom call. You look great on the television side of things. Love talking with Jay St. Clair during these 4 o'clock hours on these Fridays, and a lot of your questions are coming in for our legal man, Jay St. Clair. I want to get to a few of these, some of them a little bit related to what we were talking about, executive orders. And then after Ken Weaver's newscast at the bottom of the hour, we'll kind of dig into birthright citizenship. I think that's a little bit of a longer conversation. But
perfect.
Tracy has written in, Jay, and says, ask Jay if the executive orders regarding federal personnel and DEI could be moved to legislative action, or if that is necessary to make them more permanent.
Well, yes, Congress could pass a law. Congress, there's no question. Kathy?
Tracy.
I need to start making notes, Tracy. That yes, Congress could pass a law that said that it is illegal for any federal agency to have a DEI office. And, they may try to get that done. It would require getting 60 votes in the Senate. And so I doubt they can get that done. But yes, they could do that. But in the meantime, I think the president is entirely within his authority to do this. He is, one thing we've talked about before, Matt, and this people have this idea that the administrative group is a separate branch of government. It's not.
Right.
It's part of the executive branch, and the Constitution makes it very clear. You and I talked about this the other day. The executive power, I'm reading from memory of the Constitution. It's in Article 2. The executive power of the United States is vested in the President of the United States.
Boom.
The whole the whole universe of executive authority. And so, yes, he can just say we're not going to have any DEI officers.
Was there?
But it's only for his term, Tracy. The next, when Newsom gets voted in 4 years from now, then he can put it back in place if they don't have a statute.
And so it would.
Did I mispronounce his name?
I think you might have.
I didn't mean to.
I think it was right. It was Newsom. I think that's right. Maybe I'm doing it too. It's
Trump is so funny. He is so funny.
He mispronounced.
Have you been to the Gulf of America?
I have not been to the Gulf of America since it became the Gulf of America.
Well, they had frozen beaches down there.
That's what I see. I did see that. Did y'all get any? Did y'all get any snow?
No, we didn't. It absolutely missed us. I mean, Mobile had 7 inches of snow, man, and we didn't get any.
It's
crazy.
That global warming that we're dealing with.
Yeah.
Can you let me see. This is an interesting question. Well, we don't have time to do it now. So we'll get into birthright citizenship. And I'm also going to ask you, I've got 2 separate questions about the legitimacy of preemptive pardons and whether or not there's anything to do about that. We'll ask our man, Jay St. Clair, about both of these things coming up in a moment, plus your calls or your super text, 615-737-9986. Jay loves the questions, and he has answers. Jay tells me all the time. What do you say, Jay?
I'm often wrong, but never in doubt.
There's our man.
I have an answer for every question.
And no question about that. There's Jay St. Clair. Ken Weaver's coming up with the news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Going to warm up this weekend. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. A lot of talk about what could have prevented Wednesday's deadly Antioch High School shooting. Metal detectors were reportedly installed at the school, but then taken out due to what MNPS Director of Schools Dr. Adrian Battle claims are unintended consequences. But since Wednesday, metal detectors are being reinstalled at the school. And Metro Council member Courtney Johnston tells WTN's Matt Murphy it comes 2 lives too late.
So this conversation obviously heated up in 2023 after the Covenant shooting, where we said, okay, hold on, this is obviously very serious. And so we started talking about ballistic glass and ballistic film on the glass. And the school board pushed against that. We started talking about SROs in the schools, and the school board pushed against that. We talked about metal detectors. We talked about, several different things. And I feel like the school board pushed against everything. At that time, they weren't even being trained constantly and consistently as far as teachers and staff.
Antioch High School had a gun detection system, and they say it was on, but it did not work on Wednesday. The 2 SROs, according to Metro Police, were in another part of the building at the time. 5 days into this presidency, and the Trump administration's following through on its deportation pledge.
Tomorrow we'll have more removals than today, and then more removals the day after that and the day after that. Particularly as we bring more beds online, we bring more planes online, and we bring more law enforcement partners.
That is White House advisor Stephen Miller. The Department of Homeland Security reporting another military flight left Tucson overnight, destined for Guatemala. Target making a change in the footsteps of Meta, Walmart, and McDonald's, says Chuck Severson.
After President Trump's executive order scrapping DEI initiatives, the Target chain announcing an end to its 3-year DEI program, also ending, it says as planned, a racial equity action and change program, and stopping diversity-focused surveys. But its statement also says it's focused on growth with a commitment to inclusion for employees, customers, and communities, with references using the words all and everyone.
That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, police reporting a crash 440 eastbound right before Nolensville Pike, and then the off-ramp is partially blocked 24 westbound to get to Bell Road. Nolensville Pike, just north of Thompson Lane, got a crash. That explains all the slow go there. In Berry Hill, 440 westbound before the 65 exit. Police reporting a crash there. And then in Rutherford County, got a stalled vehicle blocking the off-ramp. That's from 840 westbound to Jefferson Pike. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy for the Tennessee Men's Clinic. The Tennessee Men's Clinic provides exceptional care for you men in the listening audience when it comes to, well, things that affect your energy level. And I want to talk specifically to you guys who have experienced some level of loss of intimacy. I understand it's a personal conversation. I understand that these things are incredibly intimate, and not only in your relation with your significant other, your loved one, your wife. The reality is, guys, and let's just get right to it. Pills often stop working. Guys make excuses for, not engaging any longer, and it's time to get something done about it. Did you know that studies show men are more irritable and argumentative and just plain grumpy when intimacy is not in their relationship? Well, I know we hate going to the doctor, guys, but Tennessee Men's Clinic was created in 2014 to take care of guys like that and guys like you. And they are discreet. They are as discreet as the day is long. And friends, it is time to get with the program. Get with Tennessee Men's Clinic to find out how they can assist you. They have a variety of different ways to specifically address whatever your issues might be. They offer same-day or next-day appointments. Let's feel amazing in 2025. Let's hit our goals this year. Let's stop thinking about it and let's get to it. 615-208-9090. That's 615-208-9090 or TennesseeMen'sClinic.com.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
37 after the hour, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. When I hear this version, I feel like I need to talk a little lower, a little slower.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, Matt, somehow we got to figure out how to bring back iTunes Roulette.
You know, I thought about that, Jay. I've thought about that. We used to do a bit when I was on with my radio partner in Birmingham, Andrea Lindenberg. You have to understand this about my good friend Jay St. Clair. Think about how knowledgeable Jay St. Clair is on the law. Y'all think about that for a moment. As knowledgeable as any man I've known on the law. Now I want you to think about music. Jay is exactly opposite on the subject of musical knowledge as he is on the law. I mean, I said that
right.
I said that very inartfully, but as much as Jay knows about the law, that's how little he knows about popular music. What about maybe 1980 on, Jay? Is that fair?
No, I can tell you exactly. Yeah, September 1980 when I started law school. But here's the deal, Matt. If you're going to be really good in some things, you got to give some things up. And well,
true,
Isaac Newton. Have you ever heard about Sir Isaac Newton? He invented gravity. He didn't discover it. He invented it.
Right.
He died a virgin.
Did he now?
Yeah, that's
well. I mean, if you're gonna tackle something as big as gravity, I guess
you got to give up something.
That's a pretty big sacrifice, Jay. Well, let me tell you something. That if I'd had that option, every single one of us would be floating around.
Okay, that's fun.
Right off planet Earth. So, Jay, let me see. I wanted to get to this one question real quick before we get into the subject of birthright citizenship. It's about, I think I can remember it while my page loads here. Is immigration status, this is from a super texter, there it goes. Is immigration status covered under HIPAA? Thanks in advance.
No.
Well, there you go. That's easy enough.
No.
I would really like for you guys to tell us about the Chevron case further. I thought it had gone up before the Supreme Court. I've not heard how it shook down. We've talked about this. Jay, how did it shake out?
Yep. Yeah, it has been decided by the Supreme Court, and it had been the law for decades that if a statute is ambiguous, and almost all of them are, then whichever federal agency has the power to oversee that statute, they could put whatever interpretation they wanted to put on it. And if it was a reasonable interpretation, then that's the one that controlled, even though there could be other reasonable interpretations. And it gave tremendous authority to these administrative agencies. They got to interpret the law, and courts had to defer to them. Well, that is no longer the law.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to make a huge difference in how all these agencies work. So that's what Chevron is. And then the other thing that's come along is the major questions doctrine, which says that if an agency, well, it's like these student loans, where they're going to give away $500 billion by interpreting the statute a certain way. And the Supreme Court in the last few years has said, no, look, if there is something that is this big that is not clearly specified in the statute, an agency can't just interpret it to do that. That's too big of a question for an agency to decide on its own. That has to be done by Congress. So that's another step in the right direction, man.
No, I love it. Absolutely love it. Jay, how are cities, 6424 says, how are cities getting away with sanctuary status and laws and getting around the supremacy clause of the Constitution of the United States? I'll say from a political standpoint, they're not getting away with it in the last 4 days. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and here's the point about that. The sanctuary city is not a term of art. So it means different things in different places. It's a very vague term, so it can be used by different, but I think the main way it is used is by like this. When, let's say that a local police department arrests somebody, they could look to see if there is a hold on that person from ICE or that they're illegal. They could look to see if they're illegal. And then if they are illegal, they could turn them into the feds. They could do that. They are not required by law to do that. That's the key fact. And so I think when most cities say they are a sanctuary city, that's part of what they're saying. And that conduct is legal. They don't have to turn them into the feds. They can, but they don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
But other cities, when they say they're sanctuary cities, they say, you come here, we're going to give you money. Well, I guess that's never against the law to give people money.
Well, and Tom Homan has been really specific that, look, you don't have to help us. There's no legal requirement.
But you better not hurt us.
But you better not get in our way.
Get in the way. You better not hide them. Right. If you hide them, it's illegal.
Right. No, it makes sense. I love my listeners because they have covered up every legitimate legal question that I had on my board with comments about Sir Isaac Newton. I mean, here's just a representative sample. 6380 says, "Woohoo! I got one on Newton." Oh, good.
You know, every guy's sense of humor stopped developing in the 8th. Right.
Well, I don't know. You and I have talked about this in the past. I don't know if we don't continue to develop it, but everything I thought was funny in the 8th grade is still funny.
Is still funny. That's exactly right.
Well, and then another of my loyal listeners has gone into this is Sally that says, if you combine, did y'all know that if you combine all three, sex, gravity, and music, the answer is Fat Bottom Girls by Queen?
So you have the wisdom of Solomon.
Sally, I'm just going to leave it there.
That is beautiful.
All right, Jay. All right, Jay, let's get into more serious things. A birthright citizenship. So all of it, I mean, do we start at the 14th Amendment and go from there? All right.
Yeah, why not start with the Constitution?
All right.
And so it's really pretty simple, man. If the Constitution said all persons born in the United States are citizens of the United States, if the Constitution said that, there would not be any debate. Mm-hmm. There's no room to argue. That's very clear.
Mm-hmm.
And if you listen to the mainstream or the legacy media, I think is the phrase that Elon Musk wants to use.
Right.
If you listen to them, that's what the Constitution says. They said, well, the Constitution says that everybody born in the United States is a citizen of the United States. That is incorrect.
Okay.
That is not what the Constitution says. They forget this phrase. The Constitution actually says, I'm looking at it, I won't read it just right. All persons born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Remember that phrase, Matt.
Okay.
And subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens. So what does that mean? What does that phrase mean? Honest answer is, I don't know. But that's the phrase. That's what this is all going to turn on, Matt, is what does that phrase mean? But I do know this with certainty. That phrase means something.
Yep. It's in there for a reason.
Something. It's in there for a reason. And there's a principle of law that says you are to give meanings to every word in a document.
Right, because they could have said, I mean, not to interrupt you, but they could have.
No, the first draft didn't have it in there.
Well,
here's the neat thing. We've got the documents from back then, man. And we can know the drafting process. And the first draft did not have that in there. And for those that don't understand the historical context, this was put in the Constitution after the Civil War. And it's clearly that the main purpose of it was to make it clear that former slaves were citizens.
Right.
That's why this got into the Constitution.
And rightly so. I mean, they wanted to.
No, absolutely. Right. That's right. But they didn't limit it to slaves. They said all persons born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. What does that mean? Well, we don't know. There was a Supreme Court case like back in 1898 that dealt with a foreign-born person, and the question was whether they were a citizen. In that case, they decided that they were. But it's because they've been living here, and they had a house, and they had other things. Here's the question they weren't asked, and they didn't answer. Does the person have to be here legally?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the issue to be decided. But some people born in the United States are not citizens. I am 100% certain of that, man, because that phrase is in there. Well, who might that be? Well, have you ever seen Red Dawn?
Yes, I have seen Red Dawn. Yes,
Great
the
movie. There's a
Russian invasion of the United
Cubans.
States. Or okay, yeah, Cubans.
Communists.
Yeah, communist invasion. Sure.
So let's say there's an invasion going on, and so there's armies up here, and they've got nurses with them and whatnot, and a nurse has a kid, and they're in this country to take it over.
Well, there's a citizen, according to CNN.
No,
Jay.
they're not. No, they're not. It's clear. Or what about this? And this is an example we'll talk about a lot. There is a ambassador here from the country of the free state of cornbread. And that ambassador is married, and his wife has a kid in the United States. Is that child a citizen of the United States? No. Almost everybody would agree on that, man. Because he is not a citizen of the United States. That child is not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, as those words are understood. And so what I know with certainty is that not everybody born in the United States is a citizen of the United States. Is one of the lines, whether they're here legally or illegally, I don't know, because that question has never been answered. It's an open question, and this is going to get and frankly, I think, we were saying this is an executive order in a totally different silo, and that's right. And there's no question that the purpose this was done was to get this issue in front of the Supreme Court.
Yeah, to settle the issue. Yeah.
That's right, and it'll get there, and it's going to be fascinating because, Scalia really, it may be some others, but he's the one who really championed this idea when interpreting the Constitution. We have to go back and look at history. We have to go back and look at what the writers of the document were thinking about when they wrote it. We can't just put our own modern interpretation, right? This is our whole story about Nimrods and how the meaning of words can change over years. And so they will go back and look at the history, and there's a lot of history there. There's documentary history and so forth. So it's an open question. We'll just have to see how it plays out, man.
No, I absolutely love it. And as a matter of fact, Dave is asking a question on this subject out of Hohenwald. Dave, you have a question or comment for Jay St. Clair. What's going on, Dave?
Yeah, just driving home on a Friday, but a couple quick questions. One, what you're talking about looking at the original, wasn't that called original intent, where you look at the back?
That's right.
The second question behind that is, my understanding is that there's no other country in the world that has this type of, you're born in the country and now you're a citizen. Is that true?
No, it's not true. I think there's about 20 other countries, Dave. I saw that number recently. It's a minority of countries, but we are not the only one. There are some others that have this.
Okay. And then my third comment is, you alluded to it a minute ago, but I understand that was like an 1890 case, and it was a Japanese or Chinese couple who were in the United States, and they were applying for their citizenship, and the question was asked, if they had a baby while they were applying, would the baby be a citizen? But my understanding that never was codified. It was just, there was an opinion given, and that was it.
No, that's right. All it was a Supreme Court opinion. I don't think that's exactly what the facts were, but it doesn't really matter. But the question they had actually been charged with a crime or something, and the issue was, were they a citizen or not? And the court ended up deciding, yes, they were citizens because they were, their child, they were in the country, they were foreign nationals, their child was born here. And the question was, I think maybe it was the child that was charged with the crime. But they never talked about whether they were here legally or not. And to be honest with you, in the 1890s, I'm not even sure we had many immigration laws.
I don't think we did.
I don't think we did. It wasn't much of an issue whether you were here legal or not. You were just here.
So I just received this. 2842 said, well, actually, I'll get into this. That phrase in the 14th Amendment refers to ambassadors who have diplomatic immunity, and she's kind of, or she or he is kind of saying that as a statement of fact. But I think what you're saying, Jay, is that's the question, is that how broad should we consider that paragraph or that subjective phrase or subjective clause? And then and I think it's wonderful that we're finally getting this on track to settle the question once and for all.
Yeah, and then what the listener's saying, I think, is that everybody seems to agree that first of all, it means something. It applies to somebody. That's the biggest step is from zero to something.
Right.
So somebody's excluded. Everybody, I think, agrees it applies to foreign ambassadors, but I don't. But not everybody agrees that that's the only people it applies to.
No, that's well said.
It could apply to others.
That's well said. Jay, I wish we had the time that I could read you all of the other Newton comments. You have broken the internet with your statement about Sir
Well,
Isaac
it's a
Newton.
true statement.
Well,
it's an absolutely true statement.
Well, I'm getting told what happens when you try to accomplish the deed that Newton never did in space where there is no gravity, but we're going to have to leave that till next week, Jay. I'm sad to say. Thank you for everything, my friend. You know how much I love you. I appreciate you, brother.
Love you, brother.
Take care. This is Jay St. Clair. Back in a moment, 53 after the hour. I wonder if there's any snoring in space. I don't know the answer to that. I would think that maybe the lack of gravity would impact snoring. Here's the bottom line, though. There's a lot of snoring on planet Earth, and if you find snoring in your bedroom and you're frustrated because it's your partner, maybe it's time to get with the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solution Center. Dr. Brian McLaughlin and Dr. Stephen Paz. I've got to get back over and just say hello to these guys and thank Dr. Paz and Dr. McLaughlin for everything that they did for me and my family, because I wear the FDA-approved oral device, which goes into your mouth. It's like a mouth guard in football is the best way that I can describe it. You don't notice it. Once you wear it a night or two, you don't even realize it's there. It gently holds your jaw forward, and that small little bit of movement keeps your airways open and your throat open, and you breathe better, you sleep better, you don't snore, and you breathe through the night so you have more energy in the morning. They're in network with BCBS, Aetna, Cigna, United Healthcare, Medicare, and TRICARE for the military. They have 2 locations, Brentwood and Murfreesboro, and they want to see you. If you're not sure if you have sleep apnea, it's time to talk to the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solution Center. drpos.com, drposs.com for the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solution Center.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
5 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Since the deadly shooting at Antioch High School, metal detectors are being reinstalled. They were reportedly removed before last week's tragedy due to what Director of Schools Dr. Adrian Battle claims are unintended consequences. Metro Council member Courtney Johnston tells WTN's Matt Murphy.
Very, very frustrating, and especially when you have Dr. Battle on the television talking about how, well, there's so many studies out there that show unintended consequences of these metal detectors, except for that's never expanded on.
Former MNPS board member Fran Bush is calling for Dr. Battle to step down. You can hear her take on the Dan Mandis podcast. White House policy advisor and Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller telling a gaggle of reporters today there will be more deportations tomorrow than today, more removals the day after, and that as they bring more beds online, more planes, and more law enforcement partners online.
So I don't want to provide you a numerical target at this point in time, but we are going to dial it up to the absolute maximum using the resources and authorities that we have.
Department of Homeland Security reported another military flight left Tucson, Arizona overnight, destined for Guatemala. Tennessee U.S. Senator Bill Hagerty telling Fox News when the confirmation vote's expected on Defense Secretary nominee Pete Hegseth.
Well, we're moving ahead in due course here. I think the biggest difficulty has been the Democrats that are using every procedural move they can to try to slow this thing down. Right now, we're scheduled to vote on Pete tonight at about 8:45 p.m.
That'll be about 7:45 p.m. Middle Tennessee time. Hegseth is likely to be confirmed despite two Republicans who voted no in that key test vote, Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins. President Trump and the First Lady on their way to California for a briefing and a visit with victims of the wildfires. They were in North Carolina this morning meeting with Hurricane Helene victims, and he told reporters he may sign an executive order getting rid of FEMA.
And we're looking at the whole concept of FEMA. I like, frankly, the concept when North Carolina gets hit, the governor takes care of it. When Florida gets hit, the governor takes care of it, meaning the state takes care of it. To have a group of people come in from an area that don't even know where they're going in order to solve immediately a problem is something that never worked for me.
And after sexual assault and domestic violence claims against him, an announcement from the Los Angeles County District Attorney about rocker Marilyn Manson. Here's Alex Stone.
Charges will not be filed against Marilyn Manson, real name Brian Warner. Since 2021, he's been under investigation. Several women, including actress Evan Rachel Wood, claimed he victimized them through rape and domestic violence. L.A. County District Attorney Nathan Hochman determining now the statute of limitations had expired for domestic violence and that his team could not prove rape beyond a reasonable doubt if they had brought charges. Manson has settled lawsuits involving allegations against him.
That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Did you know Eurofix has a very different business philosophy? They staff all of their locations with more people and more staff than the average auto repair shop. Why? They want to be ready for you when an emergency pops up out of nowhere. It's Matt Murphy, and if you've noticed how difficult it can be to get a right now appointment for vehicle repair, some dealers can literally be more than 2 weeks out. What is that? What about quality repair at Eurofix? They offer that quality. They beat dealer pricing without dealer pricing. Since 1999, they beat the dealer every time. Plus a 3-year nationwide warranty and the staff to fix your car now. Right now. If you're tired of waiting forever to get your car into the shop, call Eurofix. Owner Aaron Stokes said, we'll never be too busy for our customers. We're here to take their pain away right now. Eurofix repairs all European cars. Eurofix says yes to speedy repair when others can't or won't. Family owns for 26 years now with Aaron and his team ready to help. 844-EUROFIX, 844-EUROFIX, or visit myeurofix.com. Tell them I sent you to Eurofix.
South Loop downtown, eastbound. Got a crash right there at 65. And then Nolensville Pike, north of Thompson Lane. There's a crash. Over by the airport, got the off-ramp partially blocked, 40 eastbound to Donaldson Pike. Berry Hill, 440 westbound before 65. Rowell Hill, off-ramp partially blocked, 24 westbound to Bell Road. And at the eastern split, looks like 24 westbound right there at I-40. Police reporting a crash. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Very excited. 5 o'clock hour is here. Thank you for being with us on the Matt Murphy Radio Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is, it's looking good outside, a little chilly. Maybe grab a jacket if you're just heading out. Perhaps you're just getting off work, wondering what the traffic conditions are out there for you. They, well, not to put too fine a point on it, but they suck like they normally do this time of day in Metro Nashville. There you go. Ken Weaver's behind the glass in News Closet B, gathering headlines as we speak. Chris Weber controlling the experience, making sure that everything that comes out of our speakers sounds as good as humanly possible. I am your humble correspondent. My name is Matt Murphy, and we host a gathering from 3 until 7 that we call the Matt Murphy Radio Show, a part of live and local conversation all day long. You can join us on these airwaves if you happen to be joining on your radio. Thank you for that. You can also find us on a variety of different apps. Really, any place that you stream music or news or information or podcast or whatever, audio, you type in Supertalk 99.7 WTN, and there we are. And if we're not there, let us know and we'll get there. And then, of course, there is the television option for you masochists in the radio audience that want to look at my face while I talk about these things. You may do so by typing up YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, dial in Supertalk 99.7 WTN, and there you go. You do get to see Ken Weaver's beard from time to time, which is worth the price of admission. Ken Weaver,
yes,
who
sir.
I have it on good authority, has promised to consider ribbons in his beard if the studio improvements meet with his thumb up. Thumbs up. Consider.
I did some consultation with myself, and we have decided to table that issue.
In other words, Matt Murphy might be misremembering just a little bit. You remember when Hillary Clinton was testifying years ago, and she like said something wrong 48 times, and then when she was finally called on it, she said, "Well, perhaps I misremembered."
Yeah, and then Bill said, it depends on the definition.
That's right. It depends on what is. You know what I'm saying? I just have yourself a cigar. Calm down. Ease off. Well, we do have, I'm very excited. Preparations are underway for
I can't wait to see it.
For the big studio redo. I don't want to oversell it. It's still the same room. Same glass.
Have you seen out in the hallway, man? I mean, they got the tiles in the ceiling up and everything. They're going to have to go over.
Oh, boy.
Is that what they're doing?
It looks like they're doing something where they're going to have to get in the attic.
Man, oh, man. They're going to have to change out the hamster cages.
I thought the raccoons were back.
Well, I didn't know that they had left.
Those are just possums wearing masks.
Oh. If you have not heard, we are all anxiously anticipating Monday. I'm without fear on Monday that by 3 o'clock, surely they'll be done. Now, I'm perhaps the only one. I talked to Dan Mandis earlier.
Yes, sir.
Hey, what are you guys going to do if they're not done? I was like, Dan, they're going to be done by 3 o'clock. It's not like we're coming in here at 4 o'clock in the morning. Oh, wait. That's you.
You know what? Dan is Dan is worried because Dan preps his show. He starts prepping his show at like midnight.
I know he does.
And he's worried he's going to get here and all of that prep is going to be useless because the computer won't work.
The computer won't work. He said, are you shutting down the computer? Are you shutting it down? And I was like, well, yeah, I'm shutting it down.
It was crashing on me.
Well, I mean, apparently
trying to play audio.
Apparently it's running better now. So, and Dan wanted to know if I was shutting it down. And you know, I told him he needed to grab his stapler before he left because you never know where the stapler is going.
That's a good point. Anything that's of value or worth to anyone in there better be removed.
I really haven't seen any movement on that front. Is that our responsibility? Because if it is, it's not going to get done.
A couple of dumpsters out back, you might be diving in.
Oh, there's some things I would like to throw in the dumpster in this room. That's one of them. We'll see. 7 o'clock. Until then, it's you, it's me, it's Ken, it's Chris, and we appreciate every single one of you. Anthony, here's some good news. If you're just getting in your car, you've been away. One piece of good news. Oh, look, Donald Trump just shook Gavin Newsom's hand.
Really?
I just saw it on my television. That is breaking news.
I got to get it over there.
Donald J. Trump is outside of Air Force One. He's got Melania at his side. She's got a fetching top coat on with a hat. Donald Trump's got to Make America Great Again, black cap. Gavin Newsom speaking before the President of the United States. I'm assuming they're talking about ways that they can make America great again and make California great again. And we'll bring you all of the pertinent details as Donald Trump is in California as we speak, touring some of the devastation and speaking before said tour.
What's on his hat? Can you read what his hat says?
I think it says "Make America Great Again." It's just a black version.
Yeah, it's the presidential version.
Hey, can we jip some of this join in progress? Why not?
Both of you have disagreed a lot over the past week over what has happened in this state. How do you plan to
We got to
put your
get it
differences
finished.
aside?
We're looking to get something completed. And the way you get it completed is to work together. It's the governor of your state. And we're going to get it completed. They're going to need a lot of federal help. Unless you don't need any, which would be okay. We're going to need a lot of federal help. So we're going to take care of things. Okay?
I have all the confidence in the world we'll work that out.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
All right, so there they are. President Donald Trump playing nice with Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom playing nice with President Donald Trump.
Gavin Newsom patting him on the back.
Yeah, gave him a little back pat. Gave him a couple of handshakes too there, Ken Weaver. How about that?
I realize how big of a fella Newsom was.
I mean, he's a tall drink of water, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
I mean,
I thought he would be a wormy little thing.
Well, he's a skinny little fella. Wormy. Mealy.
Melania looking nice.
Oh, yeah, and they walked away. They're walking away to the helicopter. Melania look at that. That top coat, that tan top coat.
Yeah,
and she's
very
got it
nice
cinched
look.
at the waist.
Yeah.
And let me
Cap
tell you.
and the sunglasses.
Well, now that Barron is, off to college, Melania, man, she's involved.
I love it. She was focused in first administration on Barron, and rightly so.
Mm-hmm.
She had a couple of programs, but now she's with her man. Remember when we were told by all the liberal Democrats that Melania wasn't in this anymore, that she didn't want to be a part of this anymore, that she hated Donald Trump and all that? Well, boy, it looks like that's as true as everything else they've been telling us over the last 4 years. So good to see Donald Trump. He stopped by North Carolina earlier today. I actually had some communication with our man Steve Antle in Fairview, and he said he saw the president on a couple of occasions land at the tarmac outside of Asheville. And then he was touring one of the cities, and he told me which one, and I don't have it in front of me. But Donald Trump touring that, and said during that touring, and rightly so, and it fascinates me how crazy the leftist media gets when Donald Trump makes these types of comments. Hold on, I have to sneeze. Stand by. Oh boy,
I love sneezing, man.
I do too.
It feels great.
It does feel great right after, but you're getting the demons out. That's what you're doing. Demons swell up inside you.
That's what Bobby Boucher's mama says.
I wonder if Isaac Newton ever sneezed. I bet he did.
Well, if that other thing was true, he was probably sneezing a lot.
I bet you there's a bunch of preachers in Tulsa back in the day that were sneezing, especially that Robert Tilton.
Wait, Tilton's from Tulsa? I didn't realize Tilton was from Tulsa.
Yeah.
That's the guy they made those funny videos.
Yeah, where he's not
he's
sneezing, but he's farting.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Boy, that
right.
was
He
good
made
stuff.
he would make the faces, and they put in they put in the. Oh, so good, so good. He wasn't one of those that said that the Lord was going to call him home if y'all didn't send in $15. Was
No,
he?
that was Oral Roberts.
That was okay.
Yeah, Oral Roberts went into the prayer tower and was wrestling with Satan.
Oh yeah.
And he said he needed $75,000. And he got it.
Poor grandma. Poor grandma. I mean, she's just trying to do right by the Lord, and the man says send $5, and so she's going to send in $5.
Satan stopped in Tulsa to wrestle Oral Roberts.
Robert Tilton. I had thought of Tilton in forever. So we got Senate confirmations. Here's some good news for you just getting in the cars, right? Donald Trump toured North Carolina earlier today and made a comment. He floated the idea of killing FEMA, and I'm here for it. Liberal commentators on mainstream media networks like #NeverCNN, they go crazy when we talk about these things. Crazy when we talk about these things for what reason? FEMA did not exist at one point in America's history. America will go on without the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or at least without it being as oppressive as it currently is in terms of regulatory authority when they come into these communities. And Donald Trump rightly said it, that these outside national agencies come into these communities. They don't have any awareness of what the community needs are. They don't know about the topography. They don't know about the social or political dynamics of the community that they're trying to serve. Yet they come in, they take over, and they act like they know everything, and they make everything worse. Now, they bring a checkbook with them, and we need to talk about that too, because that checkbook, that's not free money. Free money, free money, free money. It's not free money. It's not free money. It is on the backs of your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren and your great-grandchildren, or the future existence of the United States of America. And so Donald Trump made the comment. I've got the clip. I'll play it for you in a moment. Who's to say that we could not do this better by leaving it up to the individual governors of the states impacted, leaving it up to their state emergency management agencies per the Constitution of the United States, and providing economic relief when necessary for some of these natural disasters? What's so wrong with that? Eric's been holding in Williamson County, and let's get to him. Eric, you are on the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, y'all. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Of course.
Yeah, long-time listener, first-time caller. You know, I can now take that off my bucket list of saying that. So
that's excellent.
I'll say that. So, hey, look, the question I have is not really about what we were talking about earlier. Is drones. I live in a rural area of Williamson County. Got several hundred acres out here, and over the last month or two, there's been a lot of drones. Now, I'm not talking about some little drone that you'd get at Walmart. We're talking about the really expensive, real big ones that are going over my property. And I know by law you can't shoot them down, but I also know by law that the FAA, you know, since FAA regulates them, that they have to get permission to go over my property. Can I shoot them down? I mean, it's like trespassing. I like to use the analogy: if somebody were walking in my backyard, behind my sheds, behind my garage and stuff, they'd be trespassing, looking for something to steal. What can I do about the drones flying over my property?
Here's what I'm going to do, Eric, because I don't want to shoot from the hip on this question. And our man, Jay St. Clair, I could just catalog it for him next week, but I think I can answer it because I believe that you have certain castle doctrine parameters even in the airspace above your home if it's below a certain level.
Exactly. And that's just it. They're maybe about 20 to 50 feet above tree line.
So you have drones 50 feet over tree line on your property?
Yes.
No,
I'm not conspiracy. They're not China.
Can you? Let me ask you this: do you live in an area where it is legal for you to shoot a gun on your property?
Oh yes, yeah,
okay.
Very rural. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I mean, what sheriff's deputies out there asking you about it? I mean, I would shoot it down and not go on the radio talking about it. Is what I would do.
Yeah, I thought about that, but it's more of I don't want to I mean, I know the airspace. If it's above a certain, obviously, like jet planes flying over, airplanes flying over.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
drones, and they're big drones. I mean, they're not.
How big's big? Like, you talking about?
I would probably say they're about the size of a couch cushion.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah, that's a sizable.
They're not cheap. As a matter of fact, where I was able to get a picture of one, and it's not a cheap one.
So I'll tell you what, I'm going to put it out to the audience, and I'm going to do a little research during the break. And, Eric, you keep listening to the show, and I'm so glad you called. And here's what I would beg of you. Don't make your first call your last. We would always love to hear from you, and I'll try to get you a good answer on this. So the question is, I do not believe that you're going to get an affirmative. And this is my guess before I get off the phone with you. I bet you there's something in Tennessee law making it illegal to shoot in the air. Right? So I would be willing to bet that there is a blanket law that prevents people from shooting guns in the air.
But let's say it's a shotgun. You know, you go dove hunting or duck hunting, you can shoot the shotguns in the air, obviously, because that's where the birds are.
You know, 9210 is writing in and says, don't shoot a drone down. You're just going to get in trouble. There are apps where you can use to identify the drones over your airspace, and below tree level is an acceptable limit of trespass. So,
yeah. Okay.
You know, so, I mean, that would, be about, that's around what I know to be that limit, which is, 25, 30 feet in the air. We'll get you an answer here in a moment. Eric, thank you for the call today. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, 22 after the hour. Defend Systems is a life safety and security consultation firm specializing in physical security consulting and active violence mitigation. That's a fancy way of saying this, that if you are a decision maker at a place of business or the owner, I assume you'd be the decision maker if you are the owner. If you are a decision maker at a school or a church, any place people gather, it is time to get trained up. This is a dangerous world that we live in, and sadly, the chances of you having a violent situation happen in your workplace, sadly, is not zero. And it might be very, very low, but you need active shooter response training, workplace violence prevention, site surveys and threat assessment, emergency and intruder action plans. And Brink Fiddler and his team at Defense Systems do all of this customized to your facility. It's time to make that call. Hope is not a plan, friends. It's time to get trained. And remember, I tell you, you are the first responder in the case something like this breaks out. How are you going to respond? Are you trained up, and do you know what to do? 236-6484. That's 236-6484 for Defense Systems. That's, of course, in 615, or go to defensesystems.com. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you to defensesystems.com.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Metal detectors are being reinstalled at Antioch High School, but that is not reducing the heat on Metro Director of Schools, Dr. Adrian Battle. We'll tell you about it at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Boy, oh boy, I can depend on the listening audience of this radio show and this radio station because you have inundated me with thoughts, some of which I assume to be true, in terms of the law regarding drones and drones over your property. My favorite one was Sally wrote in. Yeah, the same Sally. Said, I was shooting at crows, officer. The damn drone flew right in front of me. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I guess that's an option.
Pretty good argument.
That's a pretty good argument. Matt, my grandson owns his own business, and she names the drone business owned by her grandson. I will not name said business, but if your grandson wants to advertise, Grandma, I think this is a pretty good place to do it. Licensed by the FAA with a Part 97 drone pilot's license. I don't know what that means. His drones are worth tens of thousands of dollars and do incredible things. If someone shoots one down, it will cost them a lot of money. There is a federal law named Remote Identity Law. Every legally operating UAS should send out a BT or Wi-Fi signal that law enforcement can identify. The UAS sends a serial number, thus identifying it to the user. 5668. This is what I love about what we do. It's never a settled thing, right? Because now 5668 says, Murphy, you can't shoot crows. Well, dadgummit. I mean, come on. So the drones, I believe that they are people that have been robbing celebrities while they're away from their homes. The football players have been recently robbed at a wait. What? Is that? That's got to be an urban legend.
What's that?
That they're robbing football players while they're at away games.
Well, somebody is. I don't know if it's drones.
A case in the joint.
Somebody, you know what? I can believe it if you tell me that if these are Titans players, they stealing the playbooks. And they're stealing something.
I don't think the Titans players have the playbook.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know, Coach. I was home all weekend before the game, and I couldn't find my playbook. Somebody stole it. Folks, it is the official policy of the Matt Murphy radio show. I think I can safely speak for Ken Weaver, who is doing the news, and Chris Weber, who's producing this radio show. It is our official policy for you to not shoot at the drones. It is the policy of the Matt Murphy show to recognize that the drones might be a problem, but I would exhaust any and all other solutions before we start shotgunning the drones above your home, wherever your home might be.
Get a wrist rocket and some marbles.
Or a slingshot. Yeah, that wrist rocket, slingshot? Yeah, that's good.
Maybe some ball bearings.
You know, or maybe a paintball gun. If the drone is low enough where you can hit it with a paintball gun, that'll send a message right back to the drone operator, I suppose. Yeah?
I don't know. Maybe we ought to just let people spy on us.
Well, let me tell you, in rural Tennessee, if you drop a drone over some property in rural Tennessee, you are taking your I don't care how much your drone costs. If I can throw a bottle at it, if I can throw a beer bottle at it or a liquor bottle at it and hit it, then it's too low and you better move right along. Speaking of moving right along, it's 5:31 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Metal detectors being reinstalled at Antioch High School after Wednesday's deadly shooting in the cafeteria. They had been removed due to what Metro Director of Schools Dr. Adrian Battle claimed was unintended consequences. Former Metro Nashville Public Schools board member Fran Bush tells WTN's Nashville's Morning News she thinks Dr. Battle should step down.
I knew this was going to happen one day. I knew it was going to happen. And when I got that news feed to come across my phone that this happened, my stomach was, I couldn't believe it.
You can hear Bush's take on the Dan Mandis podcast, all of it. Deputy White House Chief of Staff Stephen Miller telling a gaggle of reporters no one should obstruct federal immigration agents from doing their jobs, even if it means going into schools.
Could you imagine telling a police officer that he couldn't do a child welfare check, or telling an FBI agent that he couldn't investigate a case of child neglect or abuse. It is essential that all law enforcement partners have unrestricted access.
At least 2 plane loads of Guatemalan nationals lifted off in the last 24 hours, and Miller says expected to continue.
Tomorrow we'll have more removals than today, and then more removals the day after that and the day after that. Particularly as we bring more beds online, we bring more planes online, and we bring more law enforcement partners.
Target is officially ending its diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, goals. It says it's ending a racial equity action and change program and stopping diversity-focused surveys. Costco shareholders have voted to go a different direction.
Preliminary results from Costco executives at its annual meeting show more than 98% of shares voted against the proposal to scrap DEI initiatives. The National Center for Public Policy Research, a conservative think tank in Washington, submitted the proposal, arguing the DEI policies have legal and financial risks for the company. It's made a similar proposal to Apple. The Costco board says its commitment, rooted in respect and inclusion, is appropriate and necessary.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. South Loop still got that crash blocking the right lane going eastbound. They're at 65. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, folks, it's Matt Murphy for Brentwood Hearing. I've got exciting news. I've been telling you about it these last several weeks from Brentwood Hearing and their team of audiologists. They're obviously committed to providing patients with the most and best technology. And their leadership team attended the launch of the Phonak Sphere, which is dedicated to helping patients hear well in situations where there's extensive background noise. It's a computer chip completely dedicated to address speech and noise. It's pretty cool. I mean, the advancement in technology, in hearing device technology, is incredible, and this is a leap forward. The Phonak Sphere can help you out if you're at a dinner party at a noisy restaurant, visiting with friends or clients at a cocktail party, or even at a sporting event. It identifies the speech. The speech gets pulled forward in terms of volume, and everything else gets diminished. How cool is that? Find out more if you're having difficulty hearing in any given situation at Brentwood Hearing Center. Give Brentwood Hearing Center a call at 615-377-0420. That's 377-0420, or visit them online at BrentwoodHearingCenter.com. Brentwood Hearing Center, better hearing for a better life. All right, Super Talk 99.7 WTN, Matt Murphy and you. Coming up in the 6 o'clock hour, he's already here. I love it. Representative Jody Barrett will be with us to discuss the upcoming special session, his thoughts on that. We'll also get to the general session discussion, whether or not there's anything of interest that we need to know about in the general session. And we'll do all of that coming up at around 6:05 this evening on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Right now, at 5:38. We try to do it every day. Sometimes I forget. Sometimes I remember. One way or the other. If I forget, I'm the nincompoop. Otherwise, we do nincompoops in the news. Thank you, big voice guy. That's right. We scour the state of Tennessee. We look all over the United States of America, nay, the entirety of the globe. And we find the nincompoops where they live and where they breathe. And when I say we, I'm talking about Matt Murphy, Ken Weaver, Chris Weber. We're not the nincompoops. We just identify them. Gentlemen, good evening.
Good evening, boys. Yes.
Oh, look, Chris turned on his little light switch.
It keeps turning off. My camera freezes and then my light turns off.
Oh, that's odd.
I had to fix it.
Maybe that light is making a personal commentary.
It may be.
You never know. All right, who wants to? We're going to play rock, paper, scissors. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Ken Weaver wants to go first.
All right, go ahead.
By the way, Ken Weaver also in the lead in the grand competition of nincompoops in the news.
No surprise.
He is well in command of that competition. You guys get to vote at the end of this. Mr. Weaver, what do you got?
Well, I've got today as my nincompoop the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, Mayor Ras Baraka, who spoke out today about what he called an ICE raid in his city. Said it targeted people at a business establishment.
Agents raided a business in our city without a warrant. They went in the back of the establishment. We believe that there were 3 people who they say were undocumented that they detained, but they also detained folks that were, in fact, citizens of this country. One person showed their military veteran identification and was still questioned anyway. People were fingerprinted. Pictures of their IDs and face were taken.
Well, Mayor Baraka, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement may encounter U.S. citizens while conducting field work, and they may request identification to establish an individual's identity, probably so they don't end up arresting somebody who shouldn't be, which is the case with this veteran. He uses the term detained. Well, detained is just an ICE agent needs to speak with you. So detained is not being handcuffed and thrown into the back of an ICE cruiser. But that's what the good Mayor Baraka wants everybody to think.
Well, Baraka is, I don't know that he is the nincompoop, but he's a nincompoop.
You know what would solve this? If we just all get citizen tattoos across our forehead to prove that we're citizens, then they would know.
Sure.
Be simple.
Or just, wear a shirt that says born here or something like that. And that,
I'm from here.
I'm from here, and that solves everything as well. Or, just on our promise. I'm reminded, I watch a lot of these videos, these audit type videos online where the sovereign citizens wear me out.
Yep.
And they just expand, this type of concept to the next level, where they suggest that the police officers don't have any right to talk to them about basically anything.
And they don't have to prove anything.
They don't have to prove who they are, where they're going, what they're doing, whether they're drunk or not, or whatever. They just get to go about their merry way. They're traveling. They're not driving. They're traveling.
That's right.
Yeah.
Love
They're always
that.
traveling. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, the Democratic representative there, LaMonica McIver, she described the raids as attacks.
Whatever. I'm sorry, folks. Papa's home, and Papa is not very pleased that we had a party at his house without his knowledge, and he is routing out the rabble-rousers and sending them on back home. It reminds me of the I think I posted this up. Hold on, Ken. I've got something to support your nincompoop story. You ready for this?
Yes, sir.
This is you might recall this guy. This is 12 Delicious Seconds. Here it is.
I'm not going back to Haiti.
Well, he's wrong. He's going back to Haiti.
Love it.
I'm not going back to Haiti. Thomas, well, he's wrong. He's going back to Haiti. There's our fella in the back of the bleep. I'm not going back to Haiti. And then he said, bleep Trump. Biden forever or whatever. Nah, you're going back to Haiti.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, I hate it for you, but you're going back to Haiti.
Yes, sir.
Want me to go next, Chris?
Yeah, sure.
I can. Sure. Iowa City, Iowa is our location today for my nincompoop, where Iowa City police arrested a suspect, Charles Taylor, 57 years old, who lists his addresses as both at West Branch and Swisher Streets, which are two different locations. He was taken into custody just before 1 p.m. last Friday afternoon after he stopped a 2007 Pontiac Grand Prix in a crosswalk at the intersection of Cross Park Avenue and Broadway Street. He allegedly showed signs of intoxication. He then admitted to the officer that he was drinking beer before the traffic stop, and he admitted that he had a revoked license. Police say Taylor refused breath testing, and he was arrested for operating while intoxicated. Second offense and driving while revoked. All right, so that in and of itself, that's bad news. You ought not to be operating a vehicle while intoxicated or inebriated in any way, and that's bad enough. But that wouldn't get you on nincompoops in the news. But this will. That was at 1 o'clock Friday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
At 7 o'clock that night, the same police officer noticed an individual driving a 2004 Pontiac Grand Am at Highway 6 and Scott Boulevard and recognized him from earlier in the day.
Oh, my.
It was the same police officer who arrested Taylor again and charged him with driving with a revoked license and, yes, indeed, driving while intoxicated. And you wonder why there's a provision in the law in most states that they're going to keep you for a few hours.
Yep.
In the joint, in the drunk tank, let you sleep it off, as they say, before they bail you out. This is probably the reason. If convicted on all three of the counts, Taylor faces a maximum of 4 years in jail. Twice in one day, same cop, oddly, different Pontiac Grand Prix.
He's a big Pontiac guy.
He's a big Pontiac Grand Prix guy. Had the old 2007, which I assume got towed, so he had to downshift to the older model, the 2004 version.
Yeah.
So
he keeps that one on hand just for such occasions.
I mean, just in case you get popped, you gotta get back out.
Got to have a backup plan.
All right, Mr. Weber, your nincompoop.
All right, mine comes from France.
All right.
Imagine dating Hollywood star Brad Pitt. Also imagine that he asks you to pay money for his cancer treatment.
Oh, no.
After Angelina Jolie freezes his funds. Would you believe it? Well, unfortunately, this happened to a woman in France who became convinced she was in a relationship with the Oscar winner.
Oh, no.
The 53-year-old victim, who gave her name only as Anne, is the latest woman to fall for the fake Brad Pitt scam after several cases were reported in Spain back in 2024.
What, there's multiple?
Yeah, apparently. She says her nightmare began in September of 2023 when she received a message on Instagram from a woman named Jane Etta Pitt, the actor's mother, or so they claimed. Their chat quickly turned to Brad and how the two would make such a great romantic match. She was told by the fraudster, "It's a woman like you that my son needs."
Oh, wow. Okay.
The next day, another account contacted her saying, "Hello, Anne. My mother told me a lot about you. I would like to know more."
Oh, it's Brad.
At first, she thought it may be a scam.
Oh, did she now?
But she soon fell into the fraudster's tangled web of deceit, and she recalled being flabbergasted that she was actually speaking with Brad Pitt, adding, "At first I thought it was fake, but I could not understand what was happening to me." After that, we would contact each other every day, and we became friends. And she says at the time she was going through a rough patch in her personal life, and her relationship with her millionaire entrepreneur was a bit in tatters.
What?
Yeah, her relationship with her millionaire entrepreneur was in tatters.
Oh, okay.
So this Brad Pitt sent her poems and songs and also AI photos to look like the actor. She says he knew how to talk to women. It was always very well done. And says that he started buying her luxurious bags, but said that she had to pay for customs And that's how she lost the first 9,000 euros.
The first to 9,000. The first to 9,000.
Eventually, the scammer claimed that he had kidney cancer and needed money for treatment, saying that his ex, Angelina Jolie, had frozen his bank accounts and he had no access to his fortune. Fake photos of Brad Pitt in a hospital bed strapped to an IV machine soon followed, and she was hooked.
Goodness.
She eventually transferred 830,000 euros to help with what she believed was his cancer treatment.
What?
And it was only after Anne saw pictures of Brad Pitt with his new girlfriend in the newspaper that she began suspecting that it might be a scam.
I don't think this is Brad Pitt at all.
Is he cheating on me?
She then went to the French police with the story, who launched their investigation in the summer of 2024. Sadly, following the con, it was reported that Anne was hospitalized in a clinic with severe depression.
Oh, goodness.
Wow.
So there
That's
you go.
unfortunate.
This woman was only 53 years old. She wasn't an elderly lady. It's oftentimes that the elderly fall for these scams just because they're not savvy in the ways of the modern technology. This woman was too young to fall for this. Maybe she was in a tender place because of her relationship, but
with her millionaire guy.
Come on, Anne.
Come on, Anne.
Wake up.
You gotta get with the program, Anne. Brad Pitt is not. He's not laying down with internet folk.
I'll say the photos that he sent were pretty convincing. They looked pretty good.
Laying
in
down
the
with
hospital bed
folk.
with IVs and.
That was just pillow talk, baby.
You feel bad. I mean, I agree with you, Chris. You feel bad. I mean, there are some people that reach a certain age and they're not really as savvy.
Yeah.
And you feel bad for those folks. And we make jokes about, Prince Nimbubu from Namibia or whatever but those people wouldn't exist if people didn't fall for it.
That's true.
And sadly,
true, man.
people fall for it.
Yep.
Let me tell you something. My grandpa never fell for anything like that. I remember, I'll never forget, my granddad would get, if he couldn't hear. I mean, he was completely deaf toward the end of his life. Yeah, exactly. And so he would pick up the phone and he would just start screaming at the person on the other end of the phone if he did not immediately recognize their voice.
Yeah.
And so I was home with him one weekend. And he answered the phone in the kitchen. The phone rang, and he answers it. And he was like, I done told you I don't want any, whatever you're selling. I don't want it. Stop calling this. Get my number off. He just was so mad, and he slams the phone down. And about 3 minutes later, the phone rings again. And he tells me, would you get that phone? They telemarketers selling something, making me so mad. And I picked up the phone, and I said, hello. And this guy on the other end of the phone that sounded like he had been through some sort of PTSD, emotional trauma, said, is this the Wilson residence? My grandpa's listening. Is this the Wilson residence? And I said, yes, this is. He goes, I swear I'm not selling anything. I'm his, it was his Medicare Plan B coverage provider. He's like, I'm just trying to call your grandfather about a couple of things. Would you please talk to me? I was like, oh, man, how long has this been going on? 3 weeks. I was like, how many times have you called today and 3 weeks? He said 2 or 3. He said, I've tried to yell. He just can't really hear. I said, yeah, that's trouble.
What? He didn't fall for anything.
So, he wasn't going to fall for anything, I'll tell you that. All right, there it is. That's Nincompoops in the News. You may vote on your favorite Nincompoop. Is it Ken Weaver? Is it Chris Webber? Is it Matt Murphy? Vote right now, 615-737-9986. Bobby will get to your call about school choice, and we'll get to our man, Representative Jody Barrett, coming up in just a moment on Super Talk. Listen, I'm very excited about all of the wonderful sponsors that I get to tell you about on the Matt Murphy Show. I'm particularly excited about Grace Point Healthcare because I've been listening about Grace Point Healthcare for some time now. I got an opportunity to go down to their offices in Franklin. I sat down with the medical staff, and I got to tell you, this is exactly the way that we ought to be doing things. They are a direct pay primary care provider, which means all treatment decisions are made between you and their medical staff and never determined by your insurance company. Whether you're paying by the visit or enrolling in their Smart Care plan, you'll always know you're getting exceptional care for the lowest possible price, and you'll know what the price of your care actually is. For example, the basic Smart Care plan is just $69 a month, and you get unlimited and free office visits with that plan, plus free diagnostic labs and diagnostic testing. At Grace Point, there's no wait times in the waiting room either. They are your primary provider that can also treat your entire family. Obviously, with wintertime brings cold and flu and all of that. What do you do when you make the call and your PCP tells you got to wait 2 weeks to get into the doctor's office? That's no good. There's no waiting with Grace Point Healthcare. As a matter of fact, they even do house calls if you're feeling too sick to leave the house. Give a call today and schedule that appointment at 599-6868. That's 599-6868. Grace Point Healthcare. Modern medicine delivered the old-fashioned way.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Since the deadly shooting at Antioch High School, metal detectors are being reinstalled. Hear from a Metro Council member and her frustrations with the Metro School Board and its superintendent for not doing enough, as she says, to protect kids in Metro schools. We'll tell you about it at 6 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
That is upcoming in mere moments. We also have Representative Jody Barrett in studio with us to talk about the upcoming special session. 6380 says, hey, first-time voter here. And then he says Weber wins.
Yes.
And then he also said, by the way, this thing might be rigged. When I tried typing in Weber, it autocorrects to Weaver. I'm not joking.
Oh, see, I knew something was up.
You know, maybe that's what you're dealing with here is the auto correction. Matt wins tonight. Matt wins tonight. Weber wins tonight. Weaver, Weber, and then I've got one guy saying all three of you are losers because why was Andy Ogles not nominated as a nincompoop in the news? That's a fair point.
That's fair.
That's a fair point. We'll do the math and we'll figure out who's the big winner. Representative Jody Barrett. We're all winners because Jody's in the house, and we'll talk to him next on Super Talk.
Six o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast and traffic coming up in 5 minutes. Since the deadly shooting at Antioch High School, metal detectors are being reinstalled. They were taken out before Wednesday's tragedy because Nashville Schools Director Dr. Adrian Battle claimed there were unintended consequences. Well, a very frustrated Metro Council member, Courtney Johnston, tells WTN's Matt Murphy.
Last school year, 19 guns were recovered from MNPS schools without any metal detectors. This relies mostly on students either telling the administrative professional, there or SROs. This year, we've already recovered 12, and we're a little over halfway through the school year. And 3 of those, including the one on Wednesday, were at Antioch High School. So guess what's happening right now as we speak at Antioch High School? They're installing metal detectors, and it's just one life too late.
Former MNPS board member Fran Bush is calling on Dr. Battle to resign. You can hear all that Bush has to say on the Dan Mandis podcast. Politics aside, it's time for teamwork. President Trump received a warm welcome from waiting Governor Gavin Newsom, who greeted him and the First Lady on the tarmac in Los Angeles this afternoon. The California Democrat joined the president to address reporters, made his gratitude known.
Most importantly, thank you for being here. It means a great deal to all of us, not just the folks in Palisades, the folks in Altadena that were devastated. We're going to need your support.
President Trump remarked on the horrific damage Southern California has experienced. Both agreed in front of the press they would work together. Newsom adding Trump had helped the state during the pandemic. The president and first lady went to North Carolina to visit with Hurricane Helene victims before they went to California. And the president said he's considering overhauling or getting rid of FEMA, giving that money to states.
Do you expect to ask Congress for additional aid for North Carolina and California?
It will be direct. In other words, the aid will go through us. So rather than going through FEMA, it will go through us. And I think maybe this is a good place to start. Because, and in all fairness to the governor, and in all fairness to everybody else, FEMA was not on the ball.
Advocates against abortion in the March for Life rally today in D.C. Vice President J.D. Vance.
We need a culture that celebrates life at all stages, one that recognizes and truly believes that the benchmark of national success is not our GDP number or our stock market, but whether people feel that they can raise thriving and healthy families in our country.
Counter-protesters were expected to hold their own demonstration outside the Supreme Court. And the U.S. Senate will vote tonight on President Trump's pick for defense secretary. While 2 Republicans have broken away at the last minute, Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins, it will take 4 Republicans to block Pete Hegseth's nomination. That vote expected around 7:45 Middle Tennessee time tonight. That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hello, friends. Matt Murphy for Savory Spice. I love to talk about the 2 locations of Savory Spice. I love to talk about as you walk to those locations, whether you're in Franklin, just off the square next to Gray's Pharmacy, you'll see the door, you'll walk in, beautiful blue door there. And before you get to the doorway, you start smelling the delicious smells of the spices, the aroma of the spices. I mean, it smells like a delicious kitchen that is cooking up something good. Same thing at L&L Market off Charlotte Pike in Nashville. You walk through the L&L Market. Once you get to the door, before you even walk through the door, you'll smell the smells because they have a spice for every taste. They have a spice for you at Savory Spice, and all you have to do is walk through and you'll see it. Plus, they have great gifts. If you have a cook that you know and love in your life and you think that they need something nice for, a special occasion, you can find it at Savory Spice. If you're trying to learn about being in the kitchen, you can get the Spice and Easy line of product that's there for you. Whether it's an exotic spice that you can't find anywhere else or you need to restock your spice rack, it's time to do it at Savory Spice. They're the best of the best. Savory Spice, 2 locations, L&L Market in Nashville, off the square in Franklin, Holly and David, local owners of Savory Spice. Go by today and tell them Matt Murphy sent you to the one and only Savory Spice.
Well, things have improved as far as crashes are concerned. We still have the usual slowdowns, but Nolensville Pike is especially backed up between Briley Parkway and Harding Place, and that goes for both directions. Then you've got the brake tapping in the usual locations, 24 eastbound until you get down to Bell Road. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, it's 7 minutes after 6 o'clock. Good evening. Hope you're well. There is a watch on the United States Senate floor in Washington, D.C., as the expectation is that the Senate will soon begin voting on the confirmation of Pete Hegseth, who we can call our own. Pete lives in Goodlettsville, or just outside of Goodlettsville, and he has been nominated by the President of the United States as Secretary of Defense. And that nomination comes up for a vote as hashtag Never CNN. I mean, you can't hate these people enough. Of course, they're characterizing this as a nomination in jeopardy. Confirmation in jeopardy, and maybe that's a fair characterization. I don't know. 2 Republicans have publicly stated that they will be in opposition to Pete Hegseth when he comes to the floor for a vote. Lisa Murkowski out of Alaska and Susan Collins out of Maine. Other than that, it looks like the Republicans are holding together for the most part. There's a question as to whether or not Mitch McConnell will leave the reservation and vote against Pete Hegseth. I have a feeling, and boy, oh boy, never underestimate the stupidity of Mitch McConnell. But I have a feeling that at some point he's going to veer back and he's going to see his way to vote for Hegseth. I could be proven wrong, but even if you lose McConnell, you still need to lose one more because J.D. Vance can break the lock. If you don't know, Republicans hold the majority 53-47 in the United States Senate. And technically it's 45 with 2 independents, but they always caucus with the Democrats. So that's where we are on the national front. Otherwise, Donald Trump visited North Carolina today, floated killing the idea of FEMA as an organization, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. I looked it up, did not exist until 1978. So I think the country, I mean, man, oh man, if we eliminated that in the Department of Education, might correct some of the errors created by the Jimmy Carter administration, along with some of the errors of the Joe Biden administration, 2 of the worst presidents in history, certainly modern history, if not the entirety of the country. And then there's news across the state of Tennessee. What with a special session on the way. Now, I'm on record as saying that while I have no children, I am all about bettering the educational opportunities for parents in the state of Tennessee. And as a general rule of thumb, I'm going to be supportive of those things that help further that cause. With that in mind, I am generally speaking, I've not read the details, and apparently there are still details to be ironed out even at the 11th hour, details of what is being known as the Education Freedom Act or the Education Freedom Scholarship Act. And I'm also on record as saying, despite where I'm at on it, I want you to have maximum information so you can make decisions for yourselves and relate those decisions or those opinions to your lawmakers so that they can better make a decision as they weigh and consider this in special session. To speak to all of these things, we welcome in Representative Jody Barrett, who joins us in studio to talk about these very matters in the special session more generally. Hello, sir.
Hello. Good to be with you.
The last time you were here this time of day, we yelled at one another. Remember that?
I do remember that.
Because that was the whole expulsion thing, and you
That's
said
right.
too good, Gloria. And I remember all that. That was good times.
All in good fun.
A good time. Oh, yeah. No, we got that water under the bridge. How's it going?
It's great, man. Getting ready to get back to work.
Yeah. Yeah, I asked you when I brought you in, I said, are you earning a little money so you can go and work for the people of your district, Dixon, and the surrounding communities?
That's
and,
right. Taking every opportunity to earn some money while I can before I come back to work for free for the state.
Well, hey, you asked for it, buddy.
I know. I asked for this.
So obviously, we gavelled into the General Assembly gavelled into session, went into recess. You guys, we're pretty aware. I'm certain that the chatter, even as you went into General Assembly on the 14th, that you would be expecting a special session. It came as no surprise.
Look, I think folks have been talking about potential of a special session all the way back to April when we adjourned last year. When this thing did not pass or did not even come to the floor for a vote, we kind of all knew that it was just a matter of when, not if, we were going to probably have to be back on the floor and dealing with this.
And, I have not really addressed much, if any, of the liberal objections to what we are discussing. It was discussed last year. Obviously, it was debated in the House, debated in the Senate. For those who missed it, at the end of the session, it was determined that the Senate and the House were kind of at an impasse as to their approach to it. And so it was put on the back burner until this year. So we knew this would come up fairly quickly. Some of the more liberal objections I don't even talk about, but there is some legitimate conversation amongst Republicans and conservatives about whether or not this is the best way forward. And I know, because you and I talked about it, that you have some concerns about the bill. And I've been begging people that have a different point of view to come on to share that point of view because I want all of this to be explored. And so here you are.
Yeah. Happy to be here to talk about it.
All right. So give us your understanding of what the bill is and what it would do, and then kind of walk us through some of those concerns.
Yeah, so again, I know folks are probably tired of hearing the Reader's Digest version of this, but the Education Freedom Scholarship Act will create 20,000 scholarships for students to be able to get a scholarship up to $7,075, which is the base amount of the TISA funding formula for this year. They'll have to apply to a private school, get accepted into that school, and then apply to the state for the scholarship and get approved for that. If they go through that process, the state will send $7,075 to their private school toward their tuition.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the gist of what we're doing here.
And the impetus behind it, the idea is that you give parents a better opportunity without economic restriction to, if they find their kid in a failing system, or at least failing for them,
right,
to get them in a better situation.
Yeah, I think there's two parts to it. I think the intent behind it is to try to create greater access to public education for folks that maybe can't afford it or don't have that ability right now to fund that. And then also to try to create some sort of competition or incentive for the public schools to try to up their game a little bit.
And for those two reasons, are you generally supportive of those concepts?
100% supportive of the concepts. Again, background on me, I have homeschooled three of my children, all three of my children. Two of them have gone to college. One's graduated and married now, and I still have a 13-year-old at home. We're still doing it. So school choice on its face, I'm all in favor of. The issue with the bill, or at least this plan that I see, is I'm not sure it does what they are trying to achieve. And so there's some limitations in the way this plan is formed that I don't think it's going to accomplish either of those goals. At least one of them not to the extent that I think justifies the investment. So it comes down to ROI and fiscal conservatism and how much is too much for us to spend in order to get a very small return for a very small number of kids.
So are we spending an adequate, in your opinion, are we spending an adequate amount of money in public education?
Yes and no. When you look at over the last 11 years of our spending in education and you break it down to K-12 education versus higher education spending, the increase between those two has been relatively small. In fact, the percentage of the total budget for education spending has gone down. And so at least in the last year. And the gap between K-12 education spending and higher education spending has widened. So we're spending more money on higher education now, 11 years down the road, than we're spending on K-12. So that growth has gone up. And I'm sure some of that's the Hope Scholarship and what was created years back. So yes, I mean we're increasing spending. I think if you listen to our leadership, it's something to the neighborhood of $6 billion of increased spending.
I think $7.1 billion is the
something
figure
along those lines. But if you can put all these on a chart, K-12 spending is still at the bottom. We're still spending less on that than any other part of education, and that's a question I think that is a fair discussion for us to have if that's the right metric. Right.
So I mean, and this I should note that the architects of this legislation have. They're spending an additional $140 million. So it's not as if this money's coming out of the current budget for education. And Governor Lee was on with us, and he made the point to say, look, no money's going to be taken away from school systems in your district or any other district in Tennessee, that they are creating a floor of funding no matter if they lose student population.
And that's a question that I have about the language of the bill. I'm not entirely convinced that that's going to be accomplished by the way this bill is written.
All right, talk to me about that. Why does that concern you?
All right, so they are saying, the proponents of the bill are saying that it will create a perpetual safety net for public schools, that they will never see a decrease in funding. But the way the bill is written, it's saying that you have to have two things happen in order to qualify to get this supplemental funding. One, you have to have a TISA formula drop in the amount of money that you get from year to year, and you have to experience disenrollment, meaning that you have to have had students leave. If you have both of those things, then the state will fill in the gap and get your funding total back to what it would have been without the disenrollment. Okay? Fast forward to the next year, it says going forward, you have to, if you have received supplemental funding through this program, and you've received a drop in TISA funding, and you have disenrollment, then you can get supplemental funding again in the following year. It has to be all of those things. So if the kid's already leaving year one, you've experienced the disenrollment there, you come back the following year and your TISA funding still doesn't meet the base level, but you haven't experienced disenrollment from the immediately previous year, this bill says you don't qualify for the supplemental funding.
But without disenrollment, you wouldn't need it.
But the way the formula is, your formula is not going to be
because
the way it was
isn't
the
the current
before.
formula on population?
It's based on population, of student population.
Right. So if you don't have a decrease, you wouldn't need it.
But
I'm a little confused.
But it's the supplemental formula though is dropped already from the year prior, so it's not going to catch back up. So if you're starting out at $1 million, and the new formula says, well, now you're only going to get 900,000.
Well, what new formula?
From year 1 to year 2.
Right.
So in year 2, the formula says, well, now we only give you 900,000. So if
current formula.
That's right. So we're saying last year you got $1 million.
Right.
All right.
We're not, and this is the current formula that exists right now in the state of Tennessee.
Correct.
Okay, I'm with you.
So if last year you got $1 million, and I'm boiling this down to make it a round number.
I was told there would be no math, Jody, but okay, that's fine.
Well, I'm a lawyer, so I'd rather talk words than numbers anyway. But if it's $1 million you got last year from the state, you come forward to this year and they say, look, based on your numbers now, we're only going to give you 900,000, but because you had disenrollment, we're going to make up the difference. So we'll throw in an extra $100,000, so you're still going to get the $1 million.
Uh-huh.
So now we go to the year 3.
Okay.
The next year.
Okay.
You've already experienced the disenrollment. The kids are already gone.
Right.
Well, your formula says, well, you still only qualify for 900,000.
Right.
So we're not going to give you this extra 100,000 now because you still haven't received the disenrollment's already happened.
Mm-hmm.
So now,
so you need to see it as a recurring.
Yeah, it does. The way it reads, it doesn't look like it's going to be year after year. And then the other question of that, well, if the intent is for it to be year after year, then how long are we going to be paying? 2 things: how long are we going to be paying that, and 2, where's the competition piece? If the school doesn't feel a decrease in funding, then what's the competition to them when
what's
kids
the incentive?
Leave? Correct.
For them to do better.
Correct.
What's the incentive now for schools to do better?
Well, the incentive now should be for their school boards to get reelected because they're doing a good job.
Is that working?
In some places, yes. In some places, no. Obviously, in places like Shelby County, Davidson County, places where we've already created ESA programs, then we have serious issues that we have to address. But it's not every district is the same, and not every school system is the same.
No, I would certainly agree there. 21 after the hour, real quick timeout. Our guest is Representative Jody Barrett. We'll continue this great conversation coming up in just a moment on the Matt Murphy Show. Hey, friends, Matt Murphy for Men of Valor. If you've not stopped by the website, movministry.com, I encourage you to do that. You can see some incredible examples of men in crisis. These men oftentimes lash out as they are in crisis, in criminal activity, and they rightly so have to serve time as a result of that. And unfortunately, they don't get rehabilitated in the prison system in the normal course of the prison system's duties. That's where Men of Valor comes in. They walk into that prison system with Bible study teachers and mentors that sit down with these men and disciple with them and turn them into men of valor. They turn their life to God, and because of that, they turn a recidivism rate that is around 50% within 3 years. They turn that into a 15% recidivism rate or less, depending year to year. Their graduates just don't return to a life of crime. They become productive members of society, and everyone benefits as a result. It is a charitable organization that benefits the entire state of Tennessee by costing us less money when people do not go back into the prison system. They need job partners and Bible study teachers, mentors. They need volunteers in the prison system and volunteers at their reentry service programs and their campus in Knoxville and in Nashville. Are you one of those people that can help them? movministry.com to find out more. movministry.com, and give as you can to Men of Valor.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Frustration mounting over metal detectors removed prior to the Antioch High School shooting. Got this story in the day's closing money news at 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Thank you, Ken Weaver. Jody Barrett in studio with us. We're talking with him, breaking down. And look, I understand that you all-day listeners, I've been talking about this a lot. I've made it a point to do so because parents and just Tennesseans in general need information to figure out where they are on this issue. The representatives that represent you want to hear from you, believe it or not. I'm certain that Jody has heard from his constituencies. You were talking about the fiscal note and that you're a little bit concerned about, I guess if I'm hearing you correctly, you're concerned about public education actually losing some dollars despite the fact that the governor and others who are advancing the bill say that that's not going to be the case, that they're not going to lose those dollars.
Right, and I totally believe that that's the intent. I'm just not sure that the language that's been written will actually accomplish that.
Okay, so and what other concerns are just kind of some top line?
So again, the fiscal note I just came out today, so I've had a chance to go through it. And the other thing that's in here that's alarming is they're basing their data and all their projections on 8 other states that have passed something similar to this. And of those 8 states that have multi-year data, that they're showing that only 35% of the scholarship recipients will actually be public school students that are moving to private. Mm-hmm. That means 65%, or roughly 13,000 of the 20,000 students, will actually already be private school students. So we've got $400 million to get this thing up off the ground, get this bird in the air. And so we're going to spend $400 million to get 7,000 students to move from public to private. That's roughly $57,000 a kid. Mm-hmm. That just seems like a lot of money for...
Well, you're including the bonus money in there?
That's all of it. Yeah.
Well, all right. I mean, but you have to subdivide. I mean, that's not going to the kid. That's not per family. The bonus money is for teachers.
No, if you're taking the whole thing, which is
it's $140 million, and then there's the initial nut, which will not be a recurring nut of $2,000 a teacher or whatever.
But all of that has to be in the bill in order to get enough votes to pass it. So if you got to throw the teacher bonuses in and everything else, that means it takes $400 million to get this bird in the air. It may only take 144 to keep it in the air and keep it flying, but it's $400 million to get it off the ground.
Right. So the overall cost. So you're against teacher bonuses? You're against offering teachers those bonuses?
I'm not against paying teachers, but again, if we're going to,
I mean, are you for or against the bonuses?
I'm not for the bonuses either. I think I think it's an insult. B, I think we're going to give bonuses to teachers that we're also saying aren't very good teachers. That's why kids aren't able to read and all this other stuff. It's kind of a mixed message.
I'm a little uncomfortable with the blanket bonuses. I would prefer them to go to the school districts as more blocks. I mean, if you're going to do that, from a merit based.
Right. Well, and you asked about creating an incentive. How do we incentivize the public schools to do better? I don't know that you do that by just passing out $2,000 checks to everybody.
I mean, I asked the governor about it, and I said, look, I mean, some people are describing it as a bribe, and he said he would not describe it that way, but he wants to make sure that teachers don't get misinformation that this is somehow anti-public school. I mean, that was his position on the matter.
Sure.
Let's take a quick time out and do some Ken Weaver news, and then we'll come back and we'll kind of continue the line of conversation with Jody Barrett. Representative Barrett is, you're against the bill. I mean, you're pretty.
I can't vote for it.
All right, and we'll continue that discussion in just a moment on Super Talk.
.30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got a warm up on the way. Tell you about it during the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Since Wednesday's deadly shooting, metal detectors are being reinstalled at Antioch High School, and Superintendent Dr. Adrian Battle is taking heat for removing them in the first place. Metro Council member Courtney Johnston telling WTN's Matt Murphy they never should have been removed.
So this conversation obviously heated up in 2023 after the Covenant shooting, where we said, okay, hold on, this is obviously very serious. And so we started talking about ballistic glass and ballistic film on the glass. And the school board pushed against that. We started talking about SROs in the schools, and the school board pushed against that. We talked about metal detectors. We talked about, several different things. And I feel like the school board pushed against everything. At that time, they weren't even being trained constantly and consistently as far as teachers and staff.
Former MNPS board member Fran Bush advocated for metal detectors and says Dr. Battles should step down. You can hear Bush on the Dan Mandis podcast. Money News, Michelle Franzen.
U.S. stocks dropped from this week's all-time high. The S&P fell 17 points Friday. The Dow Jones Industrial dropped 141 points, and the Nasdaq was down 99 points. Major indexes still posted a second straight week of gains. Investors still expecting the Federal Reserve will keep interest rates steady next week. Sale of previously occupied homes in the U.S. fell to a nearly 30-year low in 2024. Rising mortgage rates and home prices, along with few properties on the market, kept many home shoppers out of the market. Retail chain Target said Friday it would join Walmart and other brands in scaling back diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Corporate DEI programs have come under scrutiny from the Trump White House. Preliminary results from Costco executives show shareholders rejected a proposal to end the company's DEI initiatives.
That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. I just picked up a crash, right shoulder block, 65 northbound at Rosa Parks Boulevard. Madison got a crash, on-ramp partially blocked, 65 northbound from westbound Briley Parkway, Ellington Parkway. And in Williamson County got a crash involving two vehicles. Highway Patrol on the scene. They're 65 southbound past I-840. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hello, friends. Matt Murphy for Efficient Heating and Cooling. Efficient Heating and Cooling and Jeff Eddy are here for you if your heater's not ready. If your heater's not ready, call Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. Look, guys, I don't know a lot about heaters. I don't know a lot about air conditioners, but I know people, and I know Jeff Eddy is invested in you and understands that if you're on a budget, if you are living month to month, if you need to manage your money carefully, you can't go spending $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 on a heating unit just because somebody tells you it's time. You need a second opinion, you call Jeff Eddy in Efficient Heating and Cooling. He is going to determine whether or not your unit can last the rest of the year or perhaps several years down the road. Now, at some point, comes time to replace the unit. And when that time comes, you know you can trust Jeff Eddy in Efficient Heating and Cooling. They're an Elite Pro partner with Rheem, and they can direct you in the right direction when it comes to replacing that thing. EfficientHVAC.net is the website. That's EfficientHVAC.net. Or call 615-784-4424, 784-4424 for Efficient.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy. Jody Barrett's in with us. One final segment with Jody, just discussing his objection to the legislation. And as I promised, I wanted to have people with objections. I would not suggest that I agree with Jody's assessment on some aspects of this, but that's not what he's here for. He's here to just discuss the bill, his objections with the bill, and what perhaps we can do better. I mean, do you think that on the whole, well, I'm just curious about something. So you mentioned at the beginning that your kids were homeschooled.
Yes.
And you've mentioned several times how you feel comfortable the way that Dixon County or Dixon is managing its school system. Why did you decide to homeschool?
So again, I've had that question asked multiple times. Yeah. So it was not a philosophical thing. I know all the teachers in the county that I grew up in. Either I went to school with them and they're now teaching, or the teachers that had me are still teaching there. I don't have an issue with the quality of education. We've produced some amazing students and people that have gone on to do wonderful things, lawyers, doctors, the whole nine yards. It's a cultural issue. And two things. One, I wanted my kids to be kids longer. The whole thing of riding the school bus and being around other kids whose parents don't raise them the same way. And, you know, the longer I could let them be kids and a little bit more innocent, we could do that at home. And then, you know, again, discipline and how kids are raised and what they're learning, you know, their value system that they get taught. We felt like it was our responsibility as parents to do that at home.
I've heard language being used and thrown around regarding the legislation, and I think reasonable people can disagree as to, you know, whether or not a scholarship plan to give parents more opportunity to figure out some different ways to get their kids raised or get their kids schooled. I mean, I understand that reasonable people can disagree, but when I hear language like it's a scam, it's a part of a agenda, I mean, does that language make you uncomfortable?
Yeah, I mean, and I've told some of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, like, you're not getting any traction with that language. It's not helping. Having a conversation like this where we can talk about real problems or concerns about the bill and come up with maybe some alternative solutions, that's what needs to happen, not this demagoguing and, you know, it's just folks that are trying to make a name for themselves and gin up their folks. That
I mean, anytime you talk about a system as large as, you know, 1 million students within the public education system or thereabouts, you know, invariably there are going to be components of that system. You mentioned that, you know, Dixon County, I keep saying Dixon County, but Dixon or the county.
Dixon, Hickman, and Lewis.
Right. So
don't leave them out.
I know, that's why I'm trying to correct myself. But your district, you know those folks, and you feel more comfortable about the schooling that they're getting. But there obviously are parts. I mean, let me ask it this way: do you believe that, on the whole, that public education is succeeding in Tennessee as it exists right now?
Again, yes and no. I think it's compartmentalized. I think there are areas of the state that have amazing public schools. Williamson County would be hard-pressed to find anybody to say that Williamson County is not succeeding in public schools. And even within my district, from Dixon down to Hickman and Lewis County, there's 3 different experiences and 3 different types of programs. They're not exactly the same, even though they're all rural counties. Lewis County only has 11,000 people in it, but those 11,000 people are building a $40 million brand new high school right now because that's how invested they are in their high school system, their public schools, to make sure that their kids are having the best experience and the best equipment that they can have.
So, I mean, is generally speaking, giving parents more of an opportunity to figure out the best educational opportunities, you're for that, generally speaking?
Yeah, of course.
What would you support then? I mean, if you're talking about alternative plans, then what would you support that gives parents that chance?
I support what President Trump is trying to do.
President Trump came out today to support this specific piece of legislation. Are you aware of that?
I'm not aware of that, because what President Trump has talked about before is a $13,000 tax credit. Well, that creates even more trouble and concern for me, because if we're going to take these kids and give them a scholarship to move them from public to private, and then we're still going to pay the public schools that they left, so now we're paying for the same student twice, and if the federal government then turns around and gives a tax credit, well, now we're paying for the same student 3 times.
What kind of tax credit? Income tax credit?
Mm-hmm.
We don't pay, federal income tax credit?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would be against that. I don't think that the federal government should borrow money against our grandchildren to pay for anything today. And I think that was the fallacy in Todd Warner's argument in the op-ed that he wrote in the Tennessean, that you're just waiting on free government money. That's not the way that Tennesseans should be doing things.
I don't look at it that way. I look at it as
we're $37 trillion in debt, man.
But a tax credit is different than a tax incentive or a tax payment.
And so you're not showing me where the government's saving money at the same time that they're offering the credit. So they're taking in less, they're spending just as much, they're adding money to the federal debt. Period. End of the discussion. There's no other way to look at it. Unless you show me the monetary savings year to year on the tax credits, if you're taking in less and you're spending as much, you're adding to the government debt. Am I wrong?
Well, that begs the question: will we be spending the same amount on public education?
So
if you take away the Department of Education, you take that expense off the ledger.
And I agree with eliminating that.
And then you're not taking money out of the taxpayer's pocket. You're leaving it in there. You're never taking it from them. If I take taxes from you and then I decide what I think's best way to spend it, that's different than me saying I'm going to give you a tax credit where it never leaves your pocket, and then you get to decide what you want to do with it. And if it's in your best interest and your family's best interest to go spend that money on a private school tuition, then you have the freedom to go do that.
Yeah, and you're basing all of that on a federal government that spends $1.5 trillion more than it brings in every single year. So you're depending on that debt-based spending to accomplish what you say you want to accomplish.
No, I'm not depending on anything. You asked what would be.
You certainly are.
No, you asked what would be something that I would approve of. Okay. That's an idea that I would approve of.
And so the special session itself, I would expect. You're in favor of the immigration piece?
Yeah, part of that is a bill that William Lambert and I have been working on together on the driver's license and the election integrity stuff. That's something that he and I have been working on for a year now.
So the immigration piece we don't have a problem with, and the obviously East Tennessee.
Sure. Obviously I would love to have done this 3 or 4 months ago, but there's no time like the present.
So are you familiar with, or have you had discussions about some sort of walkout?
I haven't heard anything about that. I don't know what you're talking about, like the members walking out to.
I've just heard that some Republican members who are against the nature of the special session were coordinating with Democrats for the possibility of not showing up and not creating a quorum.
I suppose that's possible.
But you haven't heard anything. You haven't heard anything about it?
Mm-mm. No.
So you haven't had any conversations about that?
No.
With anybody?
No.
You're sure?
Oh, pretty sure.
Okay, I'm just
That's
asking.
something I think I would know if I had the conversation.
I'm just asking. I was just told that you had conversations about it.
Told that I had personally.
Yeah.
No, not that I'm aware of.
Not with Representative Warner.
No, I talk to Todd on probably a daily basis, but I don't know that's a conversation that anything specific's been talked about.
Have you haven't heard anything about that?
I know that there's been somebody that said something about, hey, that the numbers are there, or that there's enough people, because this thing's going to be so close that
Who
it
was
could get
that?
weird. I don't remember.
You don't remember?
No.
Okay, so you didn't know anything about it, but now you've heard something about it, but you don't remember who said anything.
Well, that's what
I'm not trying to pin you down on it. It's my understanding that the Republicans that are against this have had discussions about whether or not it would be worthwhile to walk out and to create a dynamic by which the Republican supermajority did not have a quorum for the special session to demonstrate their objection to the Education Freedom Act.
So in order to do that, you would have to have a organized group of people as an opposition. There is no organized opposition to this. It's not like the Republican Party is sitting over there with 50 people on one side of the room and 25 on the other going, hey, we're going to do this, you do that. So
that's what I'm asking you about. That's what I've heard. I've heard that there was an organization created amongst Republicans and Democrats, or at least that there was an attempt to create an organized effort to demonstrate an objection to the special. That's what I have been told, and I've heard that you were made privy of it, and I just wanted to throw it on the table and ask you about it. I mean, you tell me no, then I'll take you at your word.
Yeah, I've not heard of any organized effort to make any type of walkout.
Well, I mean, and I don't know that you would. I mean, do you think that they have the opposition has the numbers to pass it? I mean, and when I say opposition, I mean, yeah, obviously you're against the bill. So
yeah, I mean, gosh, I don't know. I know that our leadership feels like the numbers are there now, but I don't know. It's going to be tight. It's going to be really close. If it passes, I think you're probably talking of 55 to 58 in favor.
I get the feeling that more rural conservatives like yourself, you feel that your community, and you know your district a heck of a lot better than I do, that they are more comfortable with status quo than they are putting money behind something that they don't feel like will be effective. Is that a fair analysis?
No, I don't know. I don't think that my district is comfortable with the status quo. I think my district has a very strong desire to improve what they already have. I think that their biggest concern is that what we're proposing through this bill is not going to help our district in any way. In fact, it's a reverse Robin Hood. We're robbing from the rural districts and send the money into the urban and suburban districts to help them out and make it a little more affordable for them.
Do you feel any incentive to create dynamics by which those urban districts would benefit? I mean, it's clearly, Davidson County, Shelby County, maybe, a few other places around the state are the district in most need of some sort of help in terms of educating their kids.
And that was part of the problem last year. We had two different versions of the bill between the Senate and the House, and the House was taking an approach of, look, if we're going to do this, let's throw some things in there that will also help the rural school districts. Some things that were really desirable, something that I think a lot of us could have gotten behind and may have been easier to get a majority of folks to support it. At that point, the Senate just didn't want to spend the money. They were like, look, this is what we've been asked to do by the governor. This is what we're willing to vote on up or down. It's like the base model versus the platinum model. And so, the House was trying to put the platinum model together so that everybody would be really excited about it. And so what we're back to this year is maybe somewhere in between. It's a little bit of a mid-range model.
All right, we got like 2 or 3 minutes left, and I was curious if you had other things in the general. Obviously, this special session is expected to a week, 2 weeks?
I'd say
max.
A week. I'd say a week. We'll start on Monday. We'll have to come back on Tuesday, start into committee meetings and whatnot. And I suspect probably by either late Wednesday or Thursday, we'll be on the floor voting.
And once we get to the general session, anything you particularly are excited about, or any bills?
I've got some bills coming up that are going to be really good. I've got one on human smuggling and harboring of illegal aliens. I've got a constitutional amendment for homeschooling that I'm running, which is kind of tied to what we're talking about here, that if this does pass, and a way to make it comfortable for homeschool families to participate in that without some sort of state interaction or involvement in their lifetime. If there's a constitutional protection to that, then we can open it up where they'll be able to participate in the scholarship program as well.
Jody, thank you for your time. Thank you for entering the arena and expressing your opinion. I hope that people got value out of it, because my main interest is to make sure that people have all the information, right? And then they can let you guys know how they feel about it in advance of the special session.
I'll say this again today. I've been getting the emails coming in from the organizations outside that have got their folks, their grassroots fired up. Probably 300 some odd emails today, and not a single one of them have come from my district supporting this program.
Oh, so you're getting a lot of outside. Yeah, and there's a lot of special interest things going on, man.
Yep.
There's a lot. We have a lot of special interest money that's running on the radio station right now. And
that's their job.
We'll take their money.
But that's their job. That's what they're supposed to do. They're pushing for what they support, and they have every right to do that. It's just that my district doesn't.
Well, I know. And look, and I don't begrudge you that. I don't begrudge your role is to take the temperature of your district and make sure that you are adequately reflecting the desires of that district. And
that's what I try to do every day.
That's what a representative republic is all about, brother.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Jody. There's Representative Jody Barrett, 51 after the hour. We're going to wrap things up in just a moment and make way to the weekend right after this. Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice. Up the day, winding up the week. Thank you for everything. Thank you to Jody Baird for stopping in, facing the firing line. We were talking for the better part of the last hour about education in the state of Tennessee, and I thought it was a good conversation, and hope that Representative Jody Barrett and, more importantly, the listening audience has enjoyed it as well. It is my understanding, and Jody, the question was asked and the question was answered that he didn't have anything to do with this. But it is my understanding that there is a coordinated effort to try to stymie or somehow protest the special session starting on Monday. Remains to be seen whether or not that comes to fruition. There is that. So special session next week. And then for those of you tired of hearing about the matter, well, then we'll be done talking about it. And we can move on to the General Assembly and other things, such as the confirmation hearings that are ongoing in the United States Senate. As we speak, the U.S. Senate is preparing for a vote on Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth in front of the United States Senate to become the Secretary of Defense. The expectation is that, well, not even an expectation, they have outwardly stated and have voted against advancing Pete Hegseth's name. That would be Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins, both Republicans. As we mentioned earlier today, those are the only two Republicans that have publicly stated that they are no's. That would put the vote at 51-49 because Republicans enjoy a 3-vote majority in the United States Senate right now. Even if they lose another one, then J.D. Vance breaks that tie. If they lose 2 more, then Pete Hegseth will not be the Secretary of Defense. Remain to be seen. That vote should happen within the next hour or so. Hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. For Ken Weaver out of the newsroom, for Chris Weber, and for Matt Murphy, we thank you for listening this week. We'll be back on Monday at around 3 o'clock in a brand new studio. Very excited about that. Until then, have a great weekend, folks. So long, everybody.